So we are recording.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to see all of you here. We'd like to thank ABC for allowing us to use this facility to host our training event. Back right corner of the room back there, you'll see where we have the restroom. And then also back there to the right of the restroom sign, we got a couple of different coolers. I got some waters, Cokes, etc. Still some donuts and coffee in the back if you need that. Like to welcome you all here. Mr. Rochelle had to be out on assignment today, so he will be unable to be with us. At this time, I will introduce Mr. Cody Waits, our Director of the Office of Skills Development. He is going to be the first one up.
Thank you, Derek. Good morning, everyone. As I've been kind of walking around and visiting with some of you, I haven't had a chance yet to visit with all of you. Just want to take some time to say thank you first and foremost for being here. I know it takes a lot of time and effort to travel in from all over across the state. I know we've got Monticello, we've got Northeast, we've got Fort Smith, Northwest. I've just been talking around people and really encouraged just by the participation that's here today and the willingness to kind of just catch up with, one of the things that we were just talking about briefly is, the chairman of our electrical committee, we were talking about how a lot of things come on the front end or he sees it through the thing, but he doesn't always see the pieces that go on behind the scenes and has had the opportunity to sometimes visit and meet with some of the folks. So I think as much as it is a learning experience, I think what we hope that you take out of this today is building some relationships and making some connections with those who perhaps you have not met before. And being able to leverage that, not only over the course of this year, if you're new to the apprenticeship world, which we have some, but also, in years to come. When I look back at apprenticeship, just over the last year or so, I think we have a lot of activity taking place. I mean, for those of you who are in the room, it's no surprise that apprenticeship is expanding in the state of Arkansas. Just some quick numbers for you all to just kind of digest and think about. Total active programs, these are information and data reported by DOL that we leverage. So 151 active programs. 1,743 new apprentices, 8,083 total apprentices, with around a little over 600 that have been completed throughout the course of the year, and about 877 employers served based off the information that we have. And so, to kind of put that in perspective, if you look at the dollars and cents that we leverage from the state legislature that's been appropriated to the OSC to kind of award out and use that funding, that's about $2.6 million across the traditional apprenticeship funding that is leveraged, not only to, reimburse you for instructional costs, but also to help with some of those administrative expenses as well. In addition to that, right, it's the Construction Industry Craft Training Trust Fund. Not sure if everyone knows exactly what that fund, how it's built up, but for those of you who don't, the Construction Industry Craft Training Trust Fund was created many years ago. And the way that it works is for every $1,000 pulled on non-residential permits, 50 cents gets deposited into this fund. And through the Apprenticeship Coordination Steering Committee, it's the rules and the funding guidelines that are helped created. There's a number of different categories that go to fund that stuff, right? So whether it's curriculum, code books, equipment purchases for programs, education and outreach, which we're going to talk about a little bit more today, and some of the things that we've done there through the discussions that we've had over the last few months with the AACSC and really adding some additional dollars to every program to use for education and outreach. So those are just a few ways in which those funds are used in a way that we leverage that across those 8,000 apprentices on an annual basis. When you talk about the 151 programs that are active, I think it's important to think about how many programs we serve through those dollars. So if you look at total number of programs served, it's only about 53 programs of those 151 And so that kind of tells me two things. One, we need to see, number one, are we engaging every single program across the state, and whether we leverage this funding or other skills development funds to support them. I think that's one of the things that we're focused on this year, is making sure that we know all the programs, have conversations with them, and can leverage either funding stream to benefit those apprentices in that program and the employers they serve, but also to kind of go through and figure out what's the data integrity that we have here, right? To know that we only serve 53 and that there's 151 registered within the system. I think there's probably some room for improvement there. Is I think there's probably only about 100 that are really truly active here in the state of Arkansas. When you look at the total number of classes just across the state, we touch 43 different cities in Arkansas. That's not something I've ever kind of looked at when I've looked at apprenticeship here in the state. Is, you know, how many different, we look at regions, we break it down within congressional district, but how many actual cities have been reported. So we actually had classes in about 43 different cities. And some of those being taught virtually as well, offering that that opportunity as well. A lot of apprentices traveling, whether it's in-state, out-of-state, being able to have access to training in a virtual environment is important as well. And then, when you think about the dollars and the number of apprentices and what that looks like on a cost per person. So within OSD, and not just within apprenticeship, but in the broader skills development fund, we're always looking at what's the return on investment, what's the cost per person, what's the cost per training. And you look at what we do from a cost per person perspective, we hover around about $1,000 per person just in our standard skills development training grants that we award to businesses, companies all across the state, whether it's manufacturing, healthcare, construction, what have you. But in apprenticeship, if you think about that, it's even better, right? So the average cost per student in electrical is about $292 per apprentice. If you look at plumbing, it's about $351 per apprentice. And in some of our miscellaneous trades, it's $300 per apprentice. So that return on investment is really good. The cost per person is extraordinarily low. And I think that's something we should all continue to be proud of and leverage the funding that we have to keep those tuition costs low and that average cost per person down as we move forward. When you look at kind of the completions, we talked about the total number, but we had about 330 electricians. We had about 92 plumbers. Y'all can fact check that later, Rick and everybody else who's here, make sure those numbers are accurate. HVAC, we had 1, industrial electrical 4. We had some iron workers, carpenters, pipe fitters, and some others that are going down through that list. So that's just kind of a little bit about the state of the state in terms of the data and the numbers, the funding that we have available at OSD, and how that kind of translates across the state. A couple of other things that I think we're looking at, kind of looking forward, right, is how are we going to start integrating this new database that Derrick and Dawn and team have been working on to have some APIs and some things that help coordinate with Department of Health and Department of Labor and Licensing to make things a little more simplistic and make things a little more automated for you all, whether it's in the release for test piece or whether that's, filling out certain forms and having those things submitted electronically. We're still very much in the beginning stages of rolling that out. We hope to have that rolled out at some point in time this year. But I think that's an important step that we can make to try to figure out a way to make things more efficient and more effective for all programs, across the state and internally too for staff, both at OSD and Commerce, Labor and Licensing, and in Health for electricians and plumbers respectively. I also think, as we look into this coming year, I think we're going to see that 8,000 number continue to increase. I think, the construction trades continue to grow and expand. And I think that's something that we should be proud of. But, coming online this year for the first time here in Arkansas, we're going to have our teacher registered apprenticeship program. Currently, there's about 15 to 20 apprentices that are going to be starting in that teacher registered apprenticeship program. A lot of states have been adopting registered apprenticeships for teachers. DOL has been putting down funding to help support that at the federal level. And so I think as we start to talk about teacher registered apprenticeship, we look at the things and the work that Mark McManus is doing within our expansion efforts around building out the manufacturing space, continuing to have conversations with employers, talking in healthcare. We've seen a number of different healthcare providers that have adopted apprenticeship as part of their residency model. Some conversations that we've been having with Mike Rogers, Chief Workforce Officer, around. We have 2 Mike Rogers, so I had to make sure that we stipulated which one we're talking about here. But is how do we in turn take that residency model, but layer it back down and create the apprenticeship model for someone who's training to be an LPN, someone who's training to be an RN as part of those licensed occupations. In 2019, there was some legislation passed that created the ability for the state to do that across licensed occupations, not just electricians and plumbers. So we've seen some apprenticeship programs be created in the massage therapy piece, right? We've seen a number of different apprenticeship programs come online in different sectors. And so while we know the construction trade is going to kind of be the continual 85, probably 90% of all total apprentices here in the state of Arkansas, you're seeing about 400 active apprentices in IT. The manufacturing numbers continue to increase, healthcare, and now education's coming online, which eventually will start to build up another pipeline itself. You know, a couple other things that I would just point out real quick before I turn it back over to you know, to Derrick is or to Mike is you know, I think when we start looking at outcomes, you know, one of the things that we're trying to figure out is outside of the funding that we already have, which is the 2.4 that I spoke to, which is the instructor reimbursement and the CT funds for all the code books and curriculums and equipment, and education and outreach. One of the things that we're looking into this year is how do we perhaps provide some incentive funding in terms of outcome based. So if you have an apprentice who passes that licensing exam on their first try, how do we not only provide some level of support, incentive, and outcome bonus to that person, but perhaps also to the program sponsor as well for a job well done, right? You know, I think it's important that we look at this, the 600 number or whatever that was in terms of how many apprentices have been completed. But what are we going to do for those individuals to help move them along and help, you know, provide some additional support for our program sponsors who did a good job in successfully completing that apprentice and getting them, you know, throughout that training program. So I think that's one of the things we're looking at is outside of our 2.4 million is how does OSD set aside some funds for some outcomes-based funding? And then the second piece of that is creating some dashboards internally that would eventually be externally facing that can kind of highlight, right, like how many apprentices programs have, what types of outcomes they have, how many people have been completed through those programs. So that individuals, whether they're in Northeast Arkansas or Southwest Arkansas, can have an opportunity to make an informed decision as to what school they may go to, if it's not necessarily an employer decision, or perhaps what employers are working with which program sponsors based on some data that we could help show. And I know there's some broader conversations happening around, you know, websites, portals, databases, dashboards. And so hopefully this is one of those pieces that will help tie in to the broader picture. Because apprenticeship isn't slowing down, it's only picking up. There's more and more funding being allocated to registered apprenticeship on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whether that's from a state level or whether that's from a federal level. And I think the coordination that we have with you all and understanding perhaps what some pain points are and what some opportunities may be and how we can leverage some funds differently are things that we want to figure out as we move into fiscal year 24. So I've probably taken more than my 10 minutes or so. I don't know how long I had allocated, but
You got 4 more.
oh, good. Well, anyway, we'll cut it. I'll give you 4 more minutes back. Couple comments real quick. Want to recognize Karen Bashir, Chair of the AACSC. Thank you for being here. Richard, Chair of the Electrical Committee. Thank you for being here, sir. Mike Rogers, obviously you'll hear from him. Thank you so much for your support for the trades and apprenticeship wholly across the state of Arkansas. Heath Harris, member of the AACSC. Kelly Sharp, member of the AACSC. Am I missing anybody that I perhaps haven't seen yet? Bill Allison, also a member of the Arkansas Apprenticeship Coordination Steering Committee. Appreciate all y'all's support and conversations, both the difficult ones and the easy ones sometimes that we have throughout the course of a year. But with that, I'll turn it over to Mike Rogers, I believe. I think Mike's next. Mike is the Chief Workforce Officer for the state of Arkansas. Long history and tradition of career technical education, an apprentice himself, and maybe perhaps holds a few journey worker cards in different trades. Worked with Tyson for a number of years, helping stand up CTE programs and workforce development trainings all across the country. And a man that really truly needs no introduction. So please welcome Mike Rogers.
Maybe not introduction, maybe more like apologies or something. Sorry, this only got it. Yeah. But it is an honor and privilege to place me all the way back there. And I can't walk around, so I'm on screen now. But
I can move you around.
I can get excited about trades. I did. The apprenticeship model, I was thinking about that even as I was talking with Kim earlier about the apprenticeship model, maybe the oldest form of education was my statement, and I had to recant that, 'cause I think maybe homeschools go before that. But you think about even biblical times of how someone chose an occupation. Apprenticeship. I want to tell you some opinions that I have about the trades and about apprenticeship. It's just one guy's opinion. I think that apprenticeship is the cheapest, most economical education for a trade in the nation. You talk about the potential of salary and earnings gross over a person's career and the amount of investment that it takes to get that person competent to be in that trade. I can't think of another that's any more cost effective. Like it, I believe that apprenticeship has the right rigor because you're employed in the trade. You have some context and vocabulary, the nuances, you're learning, you're looking around, and you're getting some of the situational information with new content. But now I have a loop and a hook that I can connect those two. There are a lot of training institutions out there that are just giving hooks and loops, and they're not together. You get a whole bunch of loops, and nothing sticks because they can't relate to it. I think that my opinion of apprenticeship is that there is a gross misconception. I say apprenticeship, the public would say electrician. I say apprenticeship, the public would say plumbing. And I was just even discussing earlier, there's not a whole lot of trades, and for sure, there's not a lot of occupations that aren't, if I can pronounce this word right, I just made it up a while ago, apprenticeshipable. I don't know, that probably sounded terrible, but it's the model of someone who's been there, done that. I can walk you through it. I can take the steep learning curve down. I can reach the place where I can relate to you, and I can help show you how to do things that self-discovery will not bring you to. So I have been a champion of apprenticeship. I was in maybe an informal apprenticeship because, you think about how it's structured, even as it's marketed sometimes, that you got probably the best path. I won't say the only path to a licensed trade, but maybe 99% of the people who become licensed in a trade, and specifically electrical plumbing, some states HVAC, boilers are kind of weird boilers trade because, for example, Arkansas is a boiler's license, but you have to be employed in the field. You have to get the job as a boiler tech without the credentials to get the job. That's kind of sticky. Texas doesn't have a state boiler's license, but Houston does. Missouri doesn't have a Texas, or doesn't, I don't know anything Texas, except they're on the middle. Missouri, they've got, they don't have a state apprenticeship or license for boilers, but yet Kansas City does. It's really, it's such an interesting thing, but as you come back to why we're in the room today, it's about bringing people to the capacity to demonstrate work. And it's proven that, especially with the advanced training and skill sets required in today's world, that it takes 5 to 10 years to make these folks. Employers can't wait 10 years. You pay extra on Amazon to get it tomorrow. And employers are missing out on profit because they don't have the people that are in line to work at their facilities. And if they do, they show up and leave. I discovered when I was in the private sector that there is an occupation you'll never find documented anywhere. I think it's Mike Rogers' original. And I call it professional onboarders. They go to 40 hours of onboarding with the company, they get paid, and they never show up again. But Monday, they're at another company, getting onboarded again for a job they don't want. They just want to get paid, they want to be comfortable, and they like the snacks. Professional onboarders. I don't know how to fix that. Our workforce problems in the state are not anything but people problems. And I'm pretty sure if I say, hey, Rocky, let's go to Six Flags. We're gonna wait in line for 3 hours to ride a 3-minute ride right there. Nobody got time for that. But you watch how they break it up. They'll put you in line over here, and you'll say, hey, Rocky, there's just 10 people, let's get in line. and we're talking, we're visiting, Rocky's got a lot to say, we're talking, it's been 50 minutes, and we think, we round the corner, it's like, oh no, there's a 30-minute line. Well, I've already got 10 minutes, and my time is too valuable to step out now, and they will trick you every time to ride that 3-minute ride, and you'll do it again. We've got to find a way to do that for apprenticeship. Got to find a way where it's one step at a time, because the people that you're targeting think that 21 is a bright future because they can legally buy pistol ammunition. Not what you expected me to say, was it? And that's only in the red states. We've got to be able to have a place where that 4-year minimum to be in a registered apprenticeship, to be employed in the field, and to be able to meet my 8,000 hours of OJT or OJL, depending on the Mississippi you live on. And that's too far away. I need something now. And they don't know how to get it. I'm going to suggest, even of the people who went to apprenticeship in the room like I did, that half of you who went to a registered or who went to an apprenticeship, show me who you are. Okay. Now, how many of you woke up one morning when you were 18 and said, I'm going to start an apprenticeship, I'm going to be an electrician. And I know exactly what to do. I'm going to get in line. I'm going to start doing it at 22. Check the box. I'm done. I'm dedicated to my career. That's one option. How many of you did that? Quick survey. Okay, the second option. Somebody pulled the trap door and you fell into it. You had no idea it existed. It wasn't all anything you thought you could do the rest of your life. You found yourself like this. I'm making some money. There's a path I can make more money. And I'm going to be working anyway. I can even make more money. And they give you kind of a, and by the time you're good, it's like, people ought to know about that before they just fall into it. Who fell into it like me? We're not helping. I think we push people. That's the wrong phrase. Maybe we should hijack it. No, that's illegal. How do we formally create a very clear pathway for people in high school to choose a trade that they might not be working in that field yet? But man, if I could get 1 year of my electrical coursework done in high school, and when I graduate, I've got some RTI, right? Like technical instruction. I've got a background. I know the difference in a 4-gauge box. I know what Unistrut is, and I can tell you a little bit about the difference in EMT and rigid. And if all you've done is you've set the hook, then whenever they graduate, they can discuss the nomenclature, they have some idea, they can start in the trade. But the idea is to put salt on the pretzels. But eating the pretzels is not the outcome for ministry, because it's to do something else. So that's my thought around developing a workforce. Another Mike Rogers' opinion is that nobody does apprenticeship better than the skilled licensed trades in Arkansas. Arkansas is in demand. I used to travel 35 states, and it's a weird thing when you hear your name. I couldn't ever get away from my name. Who's the other Mike Rogers in the room? I'm like, okay. I've been getting a lot of your bills lately. I think you can get some of my checks. I'm not sure. I'm glad. I'll check back with you.
Yeah.
I can't run out of my name. So for 20 years, I taught high school for Mr. Rogers. Yeah, you can't imagine. Then I got out there and Tyson threw out the finally I get away from Mr. Rogers. Now then I kept getting Mike Tyson. Man, I can't seem to go anywhere. But I'm in this place now where, you know, how do we build? I can't remember what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the bills I've been getting. That's what it was. Yeah, that's it. So I'm in a hotel lobby in Illinois, and I hear Mr. Rogers. And I turned around and said, "Pork chop, what are you doing here?" And what we call him, pork chop. Pretty good. He said, I'm over here at one of the Tyson plants installing some electrical for a big shutdown. And it dawned on me because I would run across. I was with Cody, and we were in Jonesboro, Frito-Lay, and the HR director who has a law degree was a student of mine. I'm like, is Jim Gottspolter your dad? He said, no, it's my uncle. I said, well, is Rob Gottspolter your dad? No, it's my other uncle. I said, tell me your dad's name, like I can't remember. And he told me, I was like, what happens in Arkansas is unique because everybody else in the nation wants to hire them as contractors and compete. We can't saturate the market enough for the current jobs and openings that are there for existing Arkansas companies to meet their needs. Before we even get them built, they're getting hijacked and taken out of the state. And here's what the job sites do. You know, you got the mothership, all the electrical stuff, all the plumbing stuff that you haul around in a container out to the job site in another state because you don't want to go pay MRO prices somewhere else. And you turn your back for 1 second and your best tradespeople are getting recruited off the site. The only solution to me is that we need apprenticeship everywhere. We need the message, we need the brand, we need the marketing, we need the outcome. We need to get so good at what we do that people will come to Arkansas just to get it. Well, here's what happens. We go through the motions. We have, can I just say it? I'm going to anyway. We have internal conflict. And I'm talking about, you're going to find some prima donnas. Go to the trades world. I'll tell you. Prima donna people that their way is the only way. They're open to collaborate or create or be flexible and straighten it out to swallow a camel. We have these issues in the room. I have those issues. We've got to find a unified source of coming together for a common good to be able to tell our message, get as many people. I tell you, I was at I hate to see you say so much anyway. I actually don't care. I was at a community college. All the chancellors, 20 out of 22 were in the room. Who's from community colleges? Okay. Bill, you don't care. One of the chancellors said, well, not everybody is qualified for college or able to go to college to be a doctor or an engineer. And I said, I'm kind of direct. Well, I'm gonna stop you right there. So not every doctor and lawyer I've ever met is qualified to go out there and actually work for a living. That they're not able to be an apprentice in job training because they can't sweat. And they have no common sense of what a doohickey thing to do to whatchamacallit is. And they're not capable. Do you hear what you're saying? And these were people that support the trades. Saying, well, everybody's able to go to college. I'm thinking, I've got a master's degree in education, but I took a pay cut when I started using it because I like 6/16. We're not celebrating the differences in people, the qualities of people, but apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, movement opportunities down into a captive audience in a high school, be able to tell the story, the job fairs, the career days, the great work that Be Pro Be Proud does, that promotes the trades, that makes it cool, makes it sexy, and resonates with young people to put them in power of their future. And we're talking about funding formula getting changed here, or this rule or that rule, and there's so much kind of internal conflict with us, with me, that we can't get past. Okay, we're going to have challenges. I get that. We've got to do the thing outside of, let's promote this. Everybody in the room wants the same thing. We want to advance a person's knowledge, capabilities, and earning potential to serve as a viable citizen for Arkansas. So I try to mediate, I try to listen, I listen to employers because I'll tell you what the state's been doing most recently, and I won't say it's Arkansas, but high schools push a product to college. And the ones that fall out, okay, I don't know where they go. The ones that go to college, most of those don't finish. But if the college graduates a person, that's their metric. That's what they get funded on. It's wrong. For us, if our only metric was who finishes the apprenticeship, I think that's wrong. I've asked Cody, I've asked other, How many people that sit for the medical test today in the state of Arkansas and the board of examiners pass it first try? You know the number? I don't have it memorized, but I think it's 209 out of 409. We'll see how my memory is. I look at this every day. Oh, I did miss it. Journeyman only, the number of electrical qualified, I finished my apprenticeship, I sent for the test for the first try, 209 failed, 309 passed. 18 didn't even show up. Those are professional orders. They didn't show up. Now, let me say that again. 209 failed. 309 passed. You see a bigger problem than funding formulas? I do. I said we've discouraged 209 people not to be successful. It makes me wonder, is the test too hard? And I don't want to dilute the importance of making sure we get competent people. You know, you never do that with an airplane pilot. I don't feel good about doing an electrician or a plumber either. But we understand that there's learning restrictions. There are people that are digitally illiterate. They couldn't Zoom if they wanted to. You give them a free hot dog the day it loads because it's National Hot Dog Day. And all you got to do is go to the app and get it. It's yours. And they'll be like, I'll just pay for it. We won't mess with it. You can get out of some of you get out of your car by the time you walk in the door, and after you go to the bathroom, you're getting your hot dog. You wash your hands. There's digitally illiterate people that just don't want to, they don't want it. They're never going to virtual anything with you. The learning barriers, the language barriers. I don't know, is the test too hard? Is it not? Did we not do a good job prepping for the test? And I am not an advocate of saying teach the test. But does anybody not have a problem with 209 people failing the first attempt at the license last year besides me? So I think we should talk about it. But who else did that?
On the side, you know, there's different sections of it. Most of them don't even want to take all the sections at one time. They go pass the multiple choice this time, pass the gas the next time.
I'm really glad you shared that, Karen, because I'm not putting the onus on an apprenticeship sponsor or school. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's a problem, and it's a people problem. And actually, you know, hearing their strategy, I'm like, that's not what test if I don't want to study either. You know, I'd go to see what the test is like, so I'll know where to focus my efforts because I'm working too much. That might not be a bad idea, but I'm still looking at things like we don't have enough people in the pipeline coming in, and when they go out, we're kind of spraying some over here, putting some over there, and those are the conversations that I want to try to find. Are there barriers that could change it? I can't fix people. I don't know how to unscrew that lid, fix the stuff, and put it back on. If I could, you could, we'd be rich. We'd know what to do. Not even the rich part would be satisfied because we had a really good workforce. I don't know how to fix that, but apprenticeship is one of the best. It is the best model for education for the value. I saw that whenever I did maintenance. So my refrigeration background, I worked in industrial maintenance for 20 years for George's. And I like industrial base because it has about 800 trades in it. And I get bored easy. So I might be running 500 MCM through 6-inch conduit with a Greenleaf bender and send some stuff up for 1,000 horsepower three-phase motor one day. And the next day I'm over here running 1.5 inch galvanized pipe down to a header for defrost. I love the varieties, but I didn't license in any of those. But what I did need license for was anhydrous ammonia. And I say license, it's more of an endorsement because this is back in the late 80s, early 90s, and apprenticeship was just existed at the time, to my knowledge. Very limited, I don't have to remind you. Plumbers and electricians. This is even before EP 608 and HVAC. I could go buy a can of Freon at Kmart for 97 cents, and I wish I'd bought a pallet. But I didn't. I've only got. But you know, So I went to apprenticeship. I loved it because they had sandwiches and I got out of work and I got to learn it, but I could understand more about what happened, the mystery of the pipe, the thermodynamics of a huge industrial freezer. And I went through and I got my endorsements. I liked it so much, I started researching it in 2000 and started looking at the apprenticeship schools. There was a program like this in 2007 in Hot Springs. I went to it, I got the little blue book that listed all the apprenticeship schools, and I started looking down the list of the ones that offered more than just electrical plumbing. And I asked, so, hey, would you take on another craft? And so we built out the first industrial maintenance apprenticeship that students got all 4 years of NCCR apprenticeship done before they graduate high school. The ones that could qualify as a pre-apprenticeship. They still need the OJT piece. The licensed trades, you a little bit of wiggle room. Can't do that for the licensed trades. I get it. But those students were worth 2.5 times their value if they never met me. And apprenticeship did it. And Donnie Smith and NCO Tyson met me and said, how do we do that for Tyson? I said, it's easy. We started building out these programs. We did 10 in Arkansas, 60 across the nation. That was my contracting gig. I had to quit that and hire somebody to do it whenever they hired me to be over the maintenance organization. So I had 10,000 tradesmen. That I was the highest person in the company that had the word maintenance in my title. And it was a lot of fun. But what I found was exactly what we're talking about today is we don't have the pipeline, we don't have talent, we don't have a way to scale, we don't have a career path. And even in big companies, I ask companies all the time, do you have a roadmap or a career path that shows an entry-level worker how to get to executive leadership? Can you show me that in the organization? They say no. So, well, I don't think you have a hiring problem then. I think you have a retention problem. I don't think you know how to treat people. I think that people, like the meme says, they don't quit their job, right? They quit their, how about the singer? Quit their boss. They quit for leadership. And if there's my boat sinking and I'm looking at paling water or fixing a whole boat, I'm probably gonna do both. But those kinds of things with how we're managing our business is really fascinating to me. But I tell you those stories and examples because I would love to have a group of people that have a background of passion and a desire to see what do we do as a unified effort to promote the trades, to promote occupations that are apprenticeshipable. You find an acronym for that one. That we can bring out. We went from 4 to 8 in a matter of years. How many years? 4 to 8,000. 10 years? 8 years. So we went from 4 to 8 and 8. I want to go to 40,000. I think that there is a need for more electricians. And I realize that as you work with employers and, I meet so many of these folks that go through training and programs and they're using their employers because they just want to get to the level of training that they can go out and do their own thing. It's not a bad thing, it's a thing. We need a steady pipeline of people coming in. I want to see this expanded. I asked Cody to be very intentional about developing a nursing apprenticeship. The only way to nursing programs right now is to be in a 2-year school and get it. And the restrictions of clinicals and the clinical hours and the ratio and the qualified instructors and all the times they have, it's a barrier. We need to put another straw in that drink. Let's bring in some apprenticeship. Let the LPNs work with the RNs. I have an opinion that RNs quit their job because they don't do LPN work. Just like I see voters quit, they don't want to quit the floor. So we start matching up some people, and I'm really excited about what we get to do through Mark's expansion of apprenticeship. I never want to forsake the licensed trades, the tradesmen, the people that have owned apprenticeship, that are passionate, that are diligent, that are almost protective of it. I don't want to abandon that. We need that structure, but also understand as much as when I first heard about massage therapy apprenticeship, I'm like, are you kidding me? And Cody's like, they make $50 an hour. Like, are you kidding me? I've been out working for half that money. I don't know if I'll if somebody's hairy leg or not, but still, I mean, get to the point, I know I don't. I digress. We get to the point where are the trades? How do we build this? What does it look like? How do we get proactive and together and really just close our eyes and make this face and imagine what workforce looks like in 10 years from an apprenticeship standpoint. Are you excited about that? Are you passionate about that? You know how many lives are changed by that? You know how many people have broken generations of poverty? Substance abuse, some of them get on it too. But you're empowering people to give them the qualifications of what they were designed by God to make happen. Work with your hands, have equal output, service. What are we doing for transitioning military? What are we doing with all of the people that have phenomenal background structure, can follow an SOP and orders on nobody's business, they can make it to work on time? What are we doing to draw them into the apprenticeship model? What are we doing to crosswalk their experience? I know the 2 years will run a crosswalk to a PLC. They probably got some formulations that they can kind of, oh, here, yeah, we can make, okay, yeah, that fits. What are we doing for prison populations? How many of you have an apprenticeship program at a prison? How many of those people that are doing electrical work at a prison aren't inmates? You might say, well, you can't do it. Not every one of them, but if we had a way to assess the ones that were able to rightfully get released, develop this talent, these programs, and we just shave 2 years off of that expansion, give them a little glimmer of hope. What does that look like? Those are conversations I'm having. So I'll deal with the other things that come up with, this or that, or, we go OA to SAA or, okay, I don't care. I want to look at how do we fix somebody coming out of prison, because if we keep shipping what we're receiving, we got a problem. I think apprenticeship is a solution. We have too many people graduating high school without a plan. And they will buffer for 10 years before they find one or have to. They will still go to Walmart in their pajamas unless you intervene. Please help me. There's too many buddies running around Walmart because they don't know what a job looks like. I'm not to fix those things, but I think that the talent, the ideas, the visionaries, the people in this room to begin to catch a vision of what Arkansas is trying to do from a workforce standpoint. So I think speakers would stop now and take questions. I'm gonna stop now and take solutions. Anybody got an answer? There's plenty of questions out there already. Okay, I'm kidding. But if you have a question, comment, something you want to say, at your disposal, and there's like 6 people blocking you in the door. So
I think you will, your first time pastoring, typically our blue fall school, we got starting in all this. I know we have typically it started on the day in the bank. We've got a forward calendar here, so the guy finishes school in May and tests the fall. And I know he goes home, he goes every night. If we could at least test, hey.
wow. Thank you. Even if we don't have an answer to that right now, the question is exactly the innovation I'm looking for. What is a barrier? Because we would hope that somebody does read, that they understand the CFR, if they had a Zor's Bible by their nightstand, we'd love it. It would take more than 3 months to read it. But is that something that as a state that we look at? Because I know a guy, and I know the person he works for. And I think that makes a lot of sense that you come as a group of employers and people that represent employers, and you tell me what we need to do as a state, and let's look at those changes.
Same with problems with that, and honestly, we kind of have. I don't know what part it is like. I'll be honest. For years, we release tests right when we would project a release, and they release the test with it within a few weeks, and then get to 640. So not only are they testing while they're in school, like they're in school up to the day they test. Instead of getting 640, going away from school, waiting 6, 8, 10 weeks to get a test date and come back. Like our process was at 6:25, I sent an application, knowing they were gonna be done at 6:40. By the time it gets to the state's panel, which takes 4 to 6 weeks, the way it's set up. Their test date would hit on a Friday, they would be done the Monday before, whatever. But now we're kind of back to the, I understand, we might not have been doing it right before. But now we're back to going to 6:40, releasing them, and then they might test. I had a guy released in May, April. He missed, he's absent for his test date in May, but he's gonna test this month. He's been out of school for 2 months now. I don't know particularly how you work around the standards, but if we can get released to test, the dates closer to completion, it make a huge difference.
Send me an email with your idea. I want those of you to send me emails with your ideas so I can capture them. And I will ask those questions, even as I hear what you said. That they'll go in and just take a part of the test so I can focus on the rest. Maybe that's an option we need to look at. Maybe we need to break it down to where, hey, you ready for the whole thing? The 309 people? Okay, take the whole thing. You need a piece of it. And I'm saying we're gonna do that. That's a question I have now in my mind is, what does that look like? Where I can focus on this part. And then if I pass it, okay, good. Now I can focus on this part. And kind of break it up, Maybe that's a solution. I don't know.
We do that. I mean, if they, any parts that they have, they don't have.
I get that, but they have to do it. They're given all the what, they're just given a chance. Sometimes I order an a la carte menu and I go to the restaurant, so I don't want the entree. Is that an option? See what I'm saying?
I think we gotta do a better job preparing for the test. I don't think it's the test, I think it's preparation.
Well, that could be too.
And
All the above, but I want those barriers, if just questions, all the words is, what do I go ask questions about to see what can we change? How do we innovate? I don't want to do things because that's how it's always been. There's a better way. That my job is to remove barriers to stay for workforce. And I can let the people who guide these things, who are subject matter experts in it that I do not, tell me why it can't be done. If they can't tell me, we're going to change some stuff.
I heard this gentleman in front of here, right? His comment was they have to wait full 4 years before they test, even if they acquire their hours. Well, that. Right. Yeah. I've been released because he's got 640 hours and 8,000 OJT. I'm going to approve it. So, I don't care about 4 years.
And you're at the DOL?
I'm in.
He's a help.
Department of Health. Okay, so the plumber side. Okay. Just trying.
I've only had that time someone outrun their attendance at school, outrun their active calendar. Most guys miss a night or two of school a year. The next thing you know, they're 30 hours shy from the last semester. I mean, I've had a few out of like perfect attendance, but they're OJT hours and their other was like spot on. But the lag time from the release of test is probably the biggest thing. Just in like, some people don't get in a hurry to come to application.
Yeah. So would it be someone on your staff or Karen on the board that could compile these things? This is what I want to know. And I know there's other nuts and bolts about how things work. I get that. That's good. I'm glad that everybody's getting that resolved and work together. But these are the things I want to hear about. Even the marketing money that's recently come out on some of the board stuff, and a couple of schools have kind of risked it to do a little bit of marketing, and it's paid off. It's like, well, is that a barrier to how we do some stuff in the past? What does that look like going forward? How do we work those? So, do you have if you have somebody that we can send to, who would be the person's email that everybody would know that they can send it to?
Derrick.
Okay. It's got you busy, Derrick. But you could be the great guy that knows, because you work both sides of it, and you'll be able to filter the stuff I don't need to see.
Okay.
So I mean, there might be things where it's not possible. Sorry, we'd love to change it. We have some hard fix things we can't do, but what can we manage? And that's what I think you're going to be able to really see and tell me how we might go do it. So I'm going to do you just a service, or maybe this service. I don't know. I'm with my card here. Anybody that wants my contact information, take a picture of it. I'm almost like techie, right? Take a picture of it. I don't have a card. Ruffy?
And I think it's about, I ran numbers for a long time. The plumbing section, I guarantee that they've taught everything that's on that chest. What I found was 99.1% all of them that were end up passing the term. Okay, just very, very slight people. But we found that there are some that go in to pass the first time, some that go in to pass a couple of times, some that go in to pass 3 times. We started asking those questions, so saying Rick's got the right idea. You've got the sections, they can at least accomplish something when they go in and then they can make stuff forward.
Yeah, it's just, my comment was more like around, Rocky, if I throw you 5 balls, you catch all 5. Maybe not, but if I throw you one at a time, if you were like, there's some people who think one at a time, and great job. There's some that can, do that too. 5 for them, but I really like this idea, Cody, of providing an incentive to people that don't want to pass the test the first time. And maybe it's not that pass the first time, but what do we do on an outcome side of some, we want to support as a state, we want to support you with what you do at apprenticeship school. That's over and above what your business is. We get that. But if we can incentivize an employer, a sponsor, the apprentice themselves to dangle that intrinsic motivation to say, hey, you have enough money to go out and buy a new shotgun or whatever, fishing pole that they're going to want. What does that look like? So just the conversation is what I'm after today, to have those ideas, to bring it back together. So thank you for that. Appreciate the platform. Hope you weren't too embarrassed.
See if I can-
Oh, you need that. I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
Well, we don't want to listen to Andrew. That's right. So anyway, well, thank you, Mike. Covered a lot of ground there. Appreciate the landscape and everything you just discussed, as well as solutions. And one of those deals I can speak just with Heath, and then we kind of have to believe we have a solution for it, just now putting it into action and getting that done. So we'll talk about that offline here within the next couple of days. We're going to shuffle the agenda around just a tad to accommodate some scheduling changes, but I thought it was important to bring Andrew Parker with Be Pro Be Proud, State Chamber of Commerce, AIF Foundation, to come in here and speak a little bit about, I think most everybody at some level hopefully is aware of what Be Pro Be Proud is doing, not only in Arkansas, but across the country. It truly is a movement, as you'll hear them talk about, in terms of joining the movement and how this movement is taking, the entire country over. If you look at what we've done here in Arkansas with the launch of Be Pro Be Proud a number of years ago, and now how it's expanded into other states, having that connection to apprenticeship programs, to you all, and having that level of awareness, just being part of draft days and just being knowledgeable of what Andrew and team are doing at Be Pro Be Proud is one of the things we wanted to highlight today. So, Andrew Parker, Be Pro Be Proud. Thank you so much, Andrew. Let's give Andrew a round of applause.
Thank you very much. And thanks for accommodating me to join early. The benefit of that for those that were going to be before me is that I get to take the bullet and have them follow mine. That is no small task to try to continue the enthusiasm that he projects every time he has a conversation with an audience. So if you would do me a favor, take a piece of paper in your packet, put it on a landscape size, that's like this. And you're gonna need a pen. If you'll treat this as being in 4 columns, start with the column number 3, pick whichever for yourself, which is column number 3. At the top of the column number 3, put the number 100. Then take that 100 and break it into 2. One is 88 and one is 12. Then take that 88 number and break it into 59 and 29. Everybody with me? Start from the beginning. Top of the 3rd column with the number 100. From that number 100, create a tree, 88 and 12. From the 88, branch it off 59, and 29. From the 59, break it off between 35 and 24. And of the 35, put it into 20 and 5. Sorry, 20 and 50. That was hard. Well, I became aware. All right, there's an old guy I used to work with who's had a saying on, had a little thing on his shelf that said, start from where you are, not from where you want to be. So these are the numbers of where we are. If you take 100 students in Arkansas, this is National Center for Education Statistics.gov and Arkansas Department of Education. At the end of those numbers, it's also the Fed. So we did a lot of work to try to determine what happens to 100 high school freshmen in Arkansas. 88 will graduate from high school, 12 won't. Of the 88, 59 are going to go to some form of post-secondary, whatever the case might be, and 29 are not. Of the 59, 35 are going to graduate 150% of the time, 6 years or 3 years or whatever the length of the program is, and 24 will drop out at some point prior to obtaining that credential or degree, whatever that might be. And then the last numbers are the 25 is the number of students that are going to have a job related to their degree program at the broadest sense. And then the others are those that are going to do something different. The last number, which is not on that chart, is the number 35, and that's the percentage of students that will graduate from a post-secondary program of any kind, but do something as a career that required no degree in the first place. This is, in some people's minds, an indication of the situation in a negative sense, but in Mike Rogers' speak, this is enough. You take all that column on the right side of your page, there's 65% of every starting group of 100 high school freshmen that are trying to figure out what in the world am I going to do now, because this plan that was presented to me as what the path should be to be successful didn't work out for one reason or another. I admit that this is an oversimplification of a whole lot of things that go into the things that could happen. There are social, there are environmental, there are relational, there are opportunities, there's people that go to pursue careers and have a lot of earning potential that didn't require them to finish that degree. I accept all of those things, but this is, according to the most constructive resources that we can find, a picture of where we are. BPRO is trying to not only go after that 65% that are not going, what now, at a time that they are trying to figure out what that path in front of them is instead of what's behind them. But we also created the program to try to influence those who are the influence makers. That is, those who are the most successful in school, those that are most influential on a football field or a basketball field or a cheer team. If we can convince and create a program that will inspire those to pursue technical careers as options of first choice, not last resort, then they will influence their careers at a much stronger level than anything we'll ever be able to do, ever will do. I was with a BPRO Mobile workshop, which is supported by so many people in this room, and we greatly appreciate OSD and ACEF and NCEF and apprenticeship programs for the tremendous support over the years to help us get here. That workshop was in El Dorado, Arkansas. There was the captain of the football team, just received an MVP award for just after their state championship was won this last year. And 4 or 5 kids came on board and said, my God, what are you doing on board? I said, I'm going into a career in robotics. And every single one of those kids said, well, tell me more about that. That's the goal of BPRO Be Proud. That's why we have created it in such a way to be sexy, to be an extraordinarily attractive way to inspire these ideas, that all of this can be the pathway for you to be successful. It is all well-intentioned that we as a collective institution look at smart, talented, highly mobile individuals and go, you need to take this path because it's going to provide you the greatest opportunity for success. Ignores the idea that they could go into a technical field, they could go into an apprenticeship program and achieve that success in a way that's more meaningful and more applicable to the person that is. We have for the last 7 years, we have been trying to figure out how to respond to the level of interest that we have received from educators and other organizations. And it has been a bit of a dumpster fire the entire time. Thank you for everybody's patience as we have figured all these things out. We are now finding ourselves in a position through the organizational structure and levels of support that we're receiving to be able to think more constructively. How do we do this better? So we have developed strategic plans to be able to utilize Be Pro, Be Proud and utilize draft day. I'll get to that in a second. But to one, tackle the main mission of changing perceptions. Two, and I think most importantly to this audience is how do we use the resources that we have in the position that we occupy to not only encourage the pursuit of these technical careers as options of first choice, but to also talk to middle school students about pre-apprenticeship programs as it relates to that goal. How do you talk to high school students about apprenticeship programs as it relates to that goal? And we are in a position where more constructive training is going into the tour teams that are on board these trucks. We're being much more thoughtful about the individuals that are on those tours so that we are producing better results, that are producing better outcomes. And we are driving more influencers within a class to pursue these things because they will, that's the whole ballgame in terms of how do we move to larger populations. One of those tools that we are interested in using to achieve that success is the draft day pieces. You have in front of you the results of the 2023 series of draft day events. 2020, anybody familiar with draft day? Anybody not familiar with draft day? Let's do that. Who's not familiar with draft day? Okay. Enough hands sort of being lifted at all. We've had a great number of support from nonprofits, businesses, state agencies who are all looking for the same thing. That's what is the return on the investments that we're making in this program. Our focus is how do we deliver that. Draft day is part of what we attempted to do to try to help connect students that are graduating and have come through the workshops and have had this opportunity to explore careers and have said through the joining the movement phase, which is that after having had this onboard tour experience and after having gone through the simulators and gone through the program and the information that we provide, have said, I'm interested in a career or in training or in something else as it relates to one or more of the professions that was promoted across manufacturing, transportation, construction, utilities, and now forestry for the 5 industry sectors that we promote. We want to take those students and literally take that student's hand and the company's hand that's supporting us and stick them together so that there is a conversation that continues post-graduation. Draft day responded in a much more constructive way because one, employers weren't reaching out to extend their hand to those students. And students didn't know how to engage with the employers despite a website access, which is admittedly insufficient for helping them bridge that gap. So in 2022, we had 168 seniors that had either been through CTP program, had heard about the program, or had been through a little workshop in Northeast Arkansas labor shed and connected that 168 seniors with about 40 employers from that same labor shed to have a conversation about, can I come work for you after I graduate? And can you invest as a company in me to help me develop skills I need to be higher earning potential, more successful, and to sort of complete the idea that these technical careers are the options that can lead to what we call generational wealth creation. It may not happen in an entry-level position, likely it won't, hardly ever does, but inspiring the idea that these things are something that will allow me to grow does lead to executive office holding, starting my own business, and then it's off to the races. If that person has the capacity and the desire to do that, which is the same case with the lawyers and doctors. I became a lawyer because I thought I was going to be successful, and plus my dad said not to, so that was all the more motivation I needed to do it. But I was never going to be the person that I see on television. It's just, I don't like it. I want to be doing, I should have been a plumber. I could go, maybe I can. So that 168 seniors and those 40 companies produced the evidence that we needed to say this is going to be successful. 2023, 4 locations, Jonesboro, Fort Smith, Rogers, and Stuttgart. 770 seniors sat for approximately 2,259 interviews across collection of about 9 days across those 4 locations, 2 or 3 days at each location. And those 770 seniors either sat for 3 or more interviews apiece. Of that 770 seniors, approximately 41% were either offered jobs or were invited back for follow-up interviews. We are continuing to tabulate what is the net result of those conversations, how many actually took jobs. But the anecdotal evidence is that the draft day effort, as it follows the B-Pro program, is successful and has an opportunity to continue to grow. How do we help make sure that success is achieved? We have a registration process for those students and the companies. We specify to the company, these are the obligations that you have. We prepare the students with resume building workshops, interview workshops in the months, weeks leading up to these interview events, so that they are not likely going to throw up on the person that they're talking to, which might be the first interview they've ever had in their lives. As we prepare for 2024, we anticipate we will have 6 and maybe 7 locations across the state for those events. And to the extent that as we look towards this upcoming school year and a more direct constructive effort to the middle school students of pre-apprenticeships and the high school students of apprenticeships, we want you to participate if these locations are relevant to you, to continue that promotion of the apprenticeship programs that these students can and should pursue once they graduate from high school. Locations will be again in Springdale this year instead of Rogers, but it'll be that labor shed. So don't think of it as an individual city. Fort Smith for the northwestern side of the river valley. We're adding Russellville for that southern side of the river valley. We're going to have one in Pulaski County. We're going to still do it in Jonesboro for that northeast Arkansas labor shed, and likely coming back to Stuttgart or possibly Pine Bluff for that East Arkansas TBD, whether or not we're going to have one in El Dorado for the Golden Triangle and South Central. If those areas are relevant to you, we would strongly encourage and would really appreciate your participation in those events. They will start likely late February and continue through mid-April. We have heard from educators in all locations that we get it now. We're going to start bringing sophomores, juniors, and more seniors to participate. I did fail to mention that we have this interview piece taking place, but there's also a career fair that's in the same vicinity of those interviews for one purpose and one purpose only, which is to put those high school students, underclassmen, in close proximity to those seniors interviewing, so they are the first people that those seniors see and talk to once they finish that interview process. The infection rate, post-COVID terms, the infection rate of the seniors and the conversations that are happening with those underclassmen was immediately evident across the state, across all 4 locations, not only for the students, but the educators that we continue to hear from, the champions that we have at those schools, and said it has taken over the break room for the educators to the same extent that we're hearing about it in the hallways of the schools. I probably missed a handful of things, but we are very excited about increasing the footprint of draft days. We're very excited about the continued work that we're doing with the tours. And a much more strategic path of how do we promote these things to these students so that they are being more thoughtful about how do I go explore something that this has shown me to give me a glimpse of and an interest in pursuing. We wouldn't do this without all of you. OSD has been a huge partner. We appreciate that very much. Mike, for the passion and inspiration, thank you. And the support with all the draft days program since you were really on fire. So, Cody, I'm over scheduled, so thank you very much. I will leave the card up here too, if anybody wants to follow up.
Thank you. Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to experience, Be Pro, Be Proud, either the mobile unit and or draft days, I strongly encourage you to get involved this year. It's really a huge success and it's something that's been taking shape for a couple of years now. So please reach out to Andrew at Be Pro, Be Proud. All right, next on the agenda, moving right along, we actually wanted to bring in Department of Labor and Licensing and Department of Health, just talk about a few things that they may have on their radars. So I don't think Lindsay's here today, but I do believe David is here with us today. David Gray is here with the Department of Labor and Licensing. And David, appreciates you being here and taking some time to make a few comments. So let's all give a warm welcome to David.
Thanks for having me again this year. As usual, Lindsay couldn't make it again. He had some other priorities he had to take care of. First off, I'd like to, I brought some backup today. And I brought some people that a lot of you have been talking to on the phone, but have never met. So I'd like to introduce our administrative assistants that y'all talk to a lot, and that's Jamisha Robinson and Carmen Cogshell sitting back here. So you can take a minute and say hi. And also brought Samantha Martinez and you know, her job with us is, I mean, to me, she kind of holds things together up there. That's all I can say. She's well, to tell you the truth, all three of them, they do a great job. And if any of y'all talked to these ladies before on the phone, they have, I'm sure they've helped you through whatever it was that y'all had a problem with. They're great to work with. What I thought we'd talk about again is the ELP system that I think everybody is familiar with that has an electrical program because you're registering or creating the apprentice's account through it, and then we're issuing the license to them. It's our licensing program. And I just wanted to say thanks for everyone. I appreciate everybody having the patience to get through that program. It can be difficult. Let's just put it like that. We get a lot of questions on it. So I just thought that I would try to answer some of those questions. What we have is Jamisha and Carmen have put together about 10 questions, and we got some answers for it that they usually get the most of when they're in their job about this program. And so I thought I would go through some of it. And if you have a question about any of this, feel free to ask. The first one is about an apprentice license has been expired over a year, which application do I submit to get the license current? Well, you're going to use the reinstate apprentice application to do that. You're not going to do a renewal, so because it's been over a year, and one of the things that asked for is a affidavit from the apprentice, wanting to know what he's been doing during that time away from the electrical field. And the next one asked about, I've been working as an apprentice the entire time my license has been expired. How do I know what my total fee will be? Well, on apprentices, they're just gonna charge them $10 per year that they're behind. Apprentices don't get hit with a late fee like the journeyman and masters do. Next one says, I've not been working as an apprentice the entire time my license was expired. How do I know what my total should be? Well, it's basically the same thing what we talked about, you know, it's gonna be $10 per year. And then you do the reinstate application to do that. The next one they asked, what is a notice of reinstatement form? Now, this comes up on the reinstatement form about when you're going to upload the affidavit. Now, if I understand, I think, don't y'all have a notice of reinstatement form of some sort? Or
Yes, I mean, the 230 form is used as a reinstatement form as
okay.
well.
Okay. I think from talking with Commissioner Sam and Carmen about this is that I think they'd rather see the affidavit from the apprentice uploaded at that point, because at this time, I think you can only upload one item on that reinstatement form. And you know, if we need to get more spaces where you upload, then we'll get with our IT and see if we can't put more on there. And that affidavit has to be a notarized affidavit from that apprentice. All right, I was approved to test previously, but I didn't pass or take the exam. Do I need to submit a new electrician's exam clearance application? And that is no. You know, you're going to have you're going to have you're still set up in Pro system. You know, so you don't have to fill out any other exams with us. You just have to get a voucher. You know, if it's been too long, you can call us and we'll send you a voucher to get back in the program. But I don't know what the timetable is on that, but the ladies will be able to tell you that on how long between times can they still just contact Pro, you know, and get the voucher. But if it's been too long, then you can contact us and we'll send you. The apprentice license has been expired less than a year. Which application do I submit to get the license current? Well, you just use the renewal application to do that. It's only when it's over a year that you're going to use the reinstatement application. Which application or what application do I need to complete to apply to test? What is required on the application if I'm applying for a journeyman's test? Well, that's going to be the electrician's exam clearance application. There's, you know, it can be confusing because we do have a journeyman application and a master's application, but if they're wanting to take a test, whether it be the master's or journeyman or either of the residential licenses, then they will fill out this exam clearance application to do that. Okay, another good one. I was approved to test today. When can I schedule my exam? Okay, so what happens is that once we approve, they receive an email saying that they have been, and then usually on that following Monday, the reports for those that have been approved to test are full. What that means is they will get an email that day with the information on scheduling their test. We get that
quite often where where they'll email us wanting to know what to do next, but, they'll get it fairly soon. Okay, this next one, I passed my test. How can I get my license? So similar situation, once they, they'll get an email stating that they need to upload their test result. And then they actually pay for their license then and, send that in to us, and they'll get that email on the following Monday also. I renewed my license, and when will I get a hard copy? Well, we don't issue hard copies anymore, but they can get it through their account. They can go back into their account or, they can go back into their account and download the certificate to their computer, or if they're using a phone, they can save it as a picture on their phone, and then they have their license with them then. And if they want to save it to their computer, they can print it off, or they can even shrink it down and print it off and laminate it if they want to carry it that way. Most of them nowadays are just, they're keeping it on their phone. What is the late fee policy? Well, now we're talking about on other licenses than the apprentice. So the first day after it expires, you're hit with the same cost of the license. So if it's a journeyman's license, it costs $25 that first day. Afterward, they'll be hit with another $25, and then every month after that, up to 36 months, it's $10 a month. And then if they still hadn't renewed it after 36 and they want to, they're going to be hit with another $1,000 fine after that. So if you talk to journeymen or masters and they're trying to renew their license, see if they haven't, if it gets close to 36, tell them to go ahead and get it renewed so they don't get hit with that charge. Then we got questions over that, on those questions. What Samantha brought us is that we have a new work affidavit that we're gonna have on the website after today. It's I think it's a little more easier to fill out. I like it better than the old one. I have copies. We'll have copies back here.
I'll put them on the table back here.
Okay, that we can pass out. And let me see if there's anything else. that I need to-
How long have y'all said? A lot of schools already sent out the packets for the year. How long was all that they said?
We will still accept them. So how do you send them out? What do you mean with the packet?
Didn't use word at all.
So yeah. Yes, ma'am.
You're talking about.
Yeah, we'll work with you.
Well, I have a proposition.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Well, that's a weird word. That is something. Come on. Electrical program, don't be, speaking strictly for ATM. I don't care if I put the meal for it myself. Every program in here will keep me in, they get students, OSD should be able to get money, AACC should. There's got to be a way that NATF can plug in some kind of code in all 986 mile electrical premises of us, so that we can renew 75 licenses in 15 minutes instead of having to hire a full-time person. It says in the computer screen, it does nothing but renews license day after day after day. If I've got May, at 300. You have to pull up every individual. They got their own account, they got their own login, they've got their own user ID, their own password. You have to go through all this and pull up all that. But to renew the license, that's an every year thing. If we get like the month of August and September, everybody will have 140. They will pull up for renewal on the 31st. We have to log into 140 different accounts. There's gotta be some way that you link that to the school, because it's all linked to the schools anyway, now that we have to be the ones that does those renewals and stuff. And like I said, if you just want to bill me for whatever it takes your IT department to do that, I can save up enough money over the years. But there's gotta be a simple way. Got to be.
Sure.
Like January one, hold me to it this day. But we are told that after CLC is launched throughout the entire agency, that will get full cost of the bill. However, we are just waiting on right now, we have CLC launched for 27%. So that is something that we promised, but within the near future, and it should not be.
Well, that's good. That's good.
We understand that it is something that has cost.
One thing we do ask is that, I don't know what your cancellation policy is. But we ask that you follow it as closely as you can, I mean, I can only speak, I'm an apprentice instructor too. I know what our policy is at our school, is that they're missed 3, if they got 3 unexcused misses in a semester, we drop them. And I know our school administrator, he does that very well. I mean, he follows it to a T. So just so we don't get a lot of people out there that aren't in school that still license is active, because this is the activation application that y'all seen in ELP. Once y'all send that in to us, now I know of only one instance, and Karen out of her chair, she's not there, so I can't ask her. But it was one of her students, and I just know that after she did that, that student contacted me, and I found out that he had gotten an email stating that his license was no longer active anymore. So I'll ask her here in a minute. But so I don't know. I mean, I know that the accounts, most of the apprenticeship accounts that y'all have is through the school. Y'all have the school's email address tied to it, which is good. But I don't know. Hey, Karen, I was thinking about the deactivation and that one student that I talked to you about a few months back. He got that notice. Did you send that email on to him? He automatically got it when that deactivated.
The way it's just, this has been a learning curve.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
everybody. It has gotten much better. I mean, there's things But somehow or another, when the original system came into place, the apprentices were assigned a somehow good thing. They didn't have an
Right.
email file, they were given this email account, they didn't have access to. So for us to renew their license, we had to go and set up, when we first started doing it. We get asked for the apprentice email, so guess what you do, with the apprentice email.
Right.
And they could access the account, change anything they wanted to. I mean, it was just a disaster.
Right.
So then we just created a ELEC at NATF.us, so everything that you're like the license goes back. So when you go in and here, now we do a lot of transfer. So when you transfer students, the max will just goes in and put whatever email that they're using. But in his case, he got out of the program, got out of the trade, and I think he even got in a bunch of trouble. Right now.
Yeah.
So when you go into that account and you're completely deactivated in that case, which y'all can call him. He was actually out doing German work without a license. If y'all wanted us to completely, if you'll change that email back to the apprentice's email that y'all have on file, he will get that notice directly from you and it won't go to the school. That's the process that we went through with that. But if you don't change that back to that apprentice's email, once it's completely out of your system, they'll never get any kind of notification at all.
Well, I can tell you this, the reason that they all have the .gov emails is that when they built the system, they had to put an email in. And if we didn't have it, they just put at arkansas.gov for everybody, and then when they want to activate it, not apprentices, but some did, but masters and journeyman we would send them the link we would get their good email, put it in there, and then send them the link. And you.
We go through the system, because all of our students are so accustomed to think about, for 3 years, we've been now doing the license. So they go take the journeyman exam, they pass it, they get that email, says this is what you got to do. Well, first thing they do is call our office. What do you mean? What is ELP? What is the system that we're talking about? So we just ended up, it takes less time for us, because we know the system. Just to go on and fill out their application, we send them a bill for the license, and then now every year, we're even doing the journeyman's license, which I think ultimately is what's going to be done. It's like Mike was saying earlier. I mean, 90% of our students now are virtual. But it took us 2 or 3 years to get them to the point that you get them outside the go-to meeting and put them in Zoom, they're lost. If they know the system. They're too busy working to do that. So, that's just something what we ended up having to do. It saved us more time than just going in. We have all of the data. We already got the login, the passcode, and it just even taking on the journey. That's the only thing we need to do until, some of these things don't work out.
Well, we just want y'all to just deactivate them so that their license is inactive, and they'll know it, and they'll hopefully decide to get back in school, or maybe they're getting completely out. I don't know. But at least we don't have all those guys out there that are just not in school that should be in school. Speaking of that, I will say this about the ELP system. One of the best things it has done is sped up the process of these apprentices taking the journeyman exam. I can tell you this, that once we get the application and we approve it, and the apprentice schedules his test and takes the test, passes it, gets his information into us about, let's just say pay for his license. It can take as little as 2 to 3 weeks now, that whole process. So, to me, that's the best thing that's come out of this. It's sped where it used to take 2 to 3 months. Now, 2 to 3 weeks at I mean, just depends on how quick we get to it also. And there's only basically 3 of us that look at these applications. And as quickly as we can get to it, we approve them or reject them because of something missing in the application and get it back to them. That's the one good thing. The other thing, you know, like you said, Karen, about once it's their time to take one of the tests, whether it be the residential journeyman or the journeyman, you know, try to help these students get through the process. You may show them, you know, like I said, I can only speak for my school. And I know Jim does a great job of you know, the student knows and Jim knows when their last day of class is, and Jim's already talked to them about getting those work affidavits to him, and on that last day of class, after class, he has them come over. He has his computer out. He has their application up for them to fill out some other things on the form. And then you're able to save and continue that form, because now he has to wait for Derrick to sign the 230 form. And in that process, while he has them over there, he's also changing his email over to the school's email or the program's email over to their email, plus getting their password. And after Jim gets that 230 form back, he's sending it on in to us. And then everything, he's letting that apprentice know that everything's gonna come back to him now. He's gonna get the voucher to schedule his test and everything. So it works pretty well for us. It doesn't, I don't know how much actual time Jim puts in on that, but I'm sure he puts in more than what he's getting paid. But just give them, I'm just asking, you know, show them a little bit just to help them get going. We get a lot of calls from apprentices that don't know what to do. You know, they just don't have a clue. And so we're just asking for just a little bit of help on that. They
like text, so everything stuff through email, and look at the email.
Yeah.
Send an email. Yeah.
Yeah, he's right. There's a lot of them say that where they live, they can't get internet, and so they don't have a computer. And I know this system, you're gonna need a computer of some sort. I know people say, well, I've got the phone. Well, and we're working on this. I'm going to tell you, you can tell the guys, it doesn't work too well with Apple products for some reason, but our IT is working on that. Like I said, a computer will help out so much better. Some guys have luck, but the majority of them don't have luck with the IT. Or I mean, with the Apple products. Another thing is we want to make sure that if you talk to anybody, we're not taking any mail-in applications anymore. No paper applications, everything is online. And that's the only way we're allowed to take them now. Does anybody got any other questions on the ELP or yes, ma'am?
Section that is
I'll have David email them to me and then I'll send them out to everybody. Okay, thank you, Mary. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
say, where the employee has been working, number of days in there. You have their license number on there. Because we verify their license. We need more than just the first last name, because it's something information on the ground. So we need actual detailed information, so we can verify the license has been expired for the company. We put it out on. We put it on there. That over there, 55, if you only pay 3 years, it's not gonna add up to 59. Then it's after done. So it needs to be average of where you been there with, and your license number.
And another thing, some of you have gotten an email from me, I'm asking about an apprentice's attendance record. Well, I'm doing that for a reason. When I get an application from an apprentice, and he has met the minimum classroom hours, but he has 17,000 work hours, that raises a red flag. You know, so I may contact you and ask for his attendance record. And now hopefully at some point, Derrick and I have talked before that at some point we're hopefully gonna work on something where our systems can talk to each other, where I can get that information without having to bug him or bug you. But all we're doing there is just verifying that the time he was in school and the time that he worked, that they coincide. You know, I'm seeing guys that didn't work weren't in class for 2 years, but they were working during that time. And as you know, they have to, if they're working, they have to be in school. And so that's all I'm doing is just, I just want to verify just to look, yeah. These people have renewed their license since then, but and we are approving them. But chances are they're gonna be hit with a fine for working without a license from that period. So, it's not gonna hold them up unless there's something else on approving them to test. Yes.
Those work hours will not count if they were not licensed.
Right, but I'm just saying, if everything else works out while they're in the class, those hours will count, and if they meet the 8,000 hours that way, then, and she's right, if it takes them less than 8,000, if it drops them down less than 8,000, then they're still going to have to get a few more. So it does happen every now and then. Is there anything else on that?
What's the status of the guys with solar experience?
Now that solar installations, there's no specific residential rules in the code book that pertain to solar. If you know what I'm saying, so as far as I'm concerned, there's no way they can get a residential license because those licenses were brought in for people that wire and rewire houses. That's what they wanted to do. They want a specific license. They're limited in what they can do. And installing solar doesn't fit that criteria. So they can wait 4 years or go 4 years through the program, just like someone that just does only commercial, or somebody that just only does residential. And then after 4 years, they can take the journeyman exam.
If you see changing the law back in the past, you had to have, you couldn't have 8,000 hours of residential only set for your commercial license. Well, this last was now, you can have 8,000 hours of residential allow you to take your commercial bids.
Yeah.
Y'all
Yeah.
see that going back the way that it was, or just gonna leave that?
I haven't heard anything, and I don't. How long was it? When did they take the 4,000? That happened in 2015 when the rules switched over. I was at Department of Labor and Licensing at the time. Our lawyer had written it and I ran into starting to look in on that probably about 16 and talked to Charles and Ron, and nobody even knew that it had been removed. So they were totally missed it when it got put in, because that's, you know, my thought was with the way that was set up. I was like, okay, I got a guy who only works for a residential master. How is he going to get commercial work and get his journeyman's license? Because that was the way it was set up at that point in time. But with all that being removed, this kind of took all that away.
I haven't heard any call.
You know, and that could be something we could either do in their rules, or we could actually take care of in our electrical apprenticeship rules. Whatever we want to do, if we want to mess with that, that would be my thoughts.
The only last thing I want to bring up was about the 2023 adoption process. I know it's gonna go before the board at the September meeting. And so that will start the process, you know, if they approve it, you know, still would have the public input, and then hopefully after the first of the year, we'll have it adopted and enforced. That's all I got.
David, appreciate you. You guys covered a lot of ground there. No, that's good. That's what we're here for.
Thank you.
Appreciate the conversations. I mean, I think there were a number of good things that came out of that. Certainly the licensing renewal process that Karen brought up, I'm glad to hear Labor and Licensing is working on something around that with January, and certainly if there's anything we can do to assist with that, we're more than happy to do so. I believe that the last agenda item for the morning is Rick Mahan with the Department of Health, who oversees plumbing and licensing and things of that nature. Rick, thanks for sticking it out and being with us this morning. We're a little behind schedule. At the end of the day, that's what this is all about. So anyway, appreciate you, Rick, and let's give Rick a round of applause. Thank you.
Well, good morning. I won't take any time at all. I really don't have anything to present or any updates. Thought I'd just if there were any questions. Anyone has one.
You have any questions?
We are currently working on some new rules, but they shouldn't have any effect on the apprenticeship program. The new code seems to be working fairly smoothly. There are some practice tests that Matt Meyer, one of our inspectors, and he's also an instructor, and he has put together some exams that I think he's willing to share with other people. New practice. I'll get that to Derrick and let him distribute. So, no one has any questions for me or anything, I'll let you go. And I think it's lunchtime.
Yay!
It's always good to get somebody back on schedule. Yes, Karen?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll talk about it here later. Okay. Cool.
I just bought it back, guys.
Okay. For those of you who couldn't hear Karen, there was a new plumbing book approved, starting as of July 1. She's got a few copies of that with her. So if anybody's interested in taking a look at that, please feel free to do so. And then, you know, real quick, obviously we have lunch in the back that's being set up. Thanks to Lisa and everybody's been back there helping get all that organized. And also, I don't know if, I know Bill's not here. Is Megan here? Megan around?
No, she's out too.
Okay. All right, well, y'all can all tell them that I appreciated them and said thank you for hosting us and allowing us to be here and use their space again one more year for our summer meeting. So anyway, Derek, I think we're ready for lunch, correct? All right, so we're gonna break for lunch.
All right, everyone, y'all hear me all right? Back there, all right. All right, I'm glad, hope everybody's full, try to stay awake, rest of this afternoon. So have very good food, hope everybody enjoy. Guys, my name's Derrick Daniels, if you don't already know, I'm a program advisor at Office Skills Development. We're gonna start off by, taking a look.
I just got to tap it again.
There we go. All right, everybody, the guidelines that you see in your binders, they do say they are a draft. We are working a few things out with AACSC. Hopefully we will have all that remedied here in the next couple of weeks at our first, August meeting. But I figured I'd at least go ahead and give you all an overview of what we're looking at. You can see the edits in there already, just kind of giving everybody an overview of what we've been looking at, some of what we've been doing. One of the first things you'll notice right off the bat is there's a new format. We have kind of reformatted the way the guidelines, you all have seen them in the past, just to hopefully make for a better flow for the document as you look through it. I'm just going to kind of hit some of the big changes that we kind of have added to the document. And then, of course, after we get this all agreed upon and approved, then I will send out the new document to everybody as soon as that is done. So as far as our definitions, we really have not changed anything in regards to really the definitions. Just not much at all. And then we get over here to our second page, which is our eligibility standards for section 2. This lets you know, what you need to be eligible to receive TA funding. Few little things here, of course, we did this here because it's number 1, same as number 2. So that's just easy. We just needed to get it cleaned up the document. Number 5 here, all apprenticeship school applicants, apprenticeship school seeking approval to add a new classroom location. Well, it also applies to virtual or blended. So we just try to create that consistency with the document because it applies to all. Like I said, other than that, all this is basically the same. All right, so now when we get into section 3, our traditional apprenticeship funding. So first off, way we are going to be looking at doing it this year is we will still be using that cost reimbursement method as we did this previous year. So, reimbursing you for what you pay your instructor. So that's first and foremost, that's going to stay the same. 2, we have added the guideline in there to the document. Used to be it was 1 to 15, 15, and so on, as far as the number of apprentices per instructor that one could seek reimbursement for, as far as what we would be able to pay them, as far as what we would be able to allow for the instructors, how many instructors they could be reimbursed for. So we added the guideline in there. 1 to 10 is for instructor, 11 to 20 is 2, 21 to 30 is 3, and so on. Now, what we have done is we added a asterisk here, additional justification based on number of apprentices and level of apprentices may be considered in awarding additional instructors. So let's say you're in this 1 to 10, you got 10 apprentices, typically by the guideline, we would only be able to give you one instructor. But as we all know, most of your programs are 4-year programs. So we would look at that as being a justification why you might want to be able to get another instructor if you only have 10. So that way you can break your classes up, which we all feel, I would say, makes for a better environment for those apprentices. So you don't have one class and you got first year and fourth year guys in the same class. All right. We're at both totally opposite ends of the spectrum in their training at that point in time. So we would totally understand why we might want to give you another instructor so you could maybe go first and second year, third and fourth year. All right. So, yes, sir.
Sorry, I stepped up. Yeah, the AACSC, OSD, hats off there, March, April, May, June, it's a hours. And y'all remember every apprenticeship program in here provides feedback. Stuff was talked about under the city program, what is you really want to see? Transparency, all programs being created equally, and Kathy said best one time that you only know what you got. And, you know, some of the programs, we never had this written anywhere. It's just, I use word, we don't have a system, but we did follow, we just predates back to Rock's, you know, the 1 to 15. So programs, so when we ran the numbers, you know, program in Eastern Arkansas, they've only got 2 instructors, they got 40 minutes. Another program in Little Rock, you know, they've only got 2 apprentices, but they receive funding for instructors. So we want to put something in here to let everybody know. So there's nothing mean your program is set up. You don't need instructors. We're not saying you can ask them. No, you know, we're not saying that extending 100 change it. But we just wanted everybody to be on an even playing field so that everybody can be, you know, everybody had the opportunity to place. I don't think we turned down 1 or 2 last year. There's a lot of programs that didn't realize they could put a basketball. I'm a chairperson of the meeting. I didn't know I asked for it until after Sunday was here. So that's, you know, we just follow that list. Those people, you know, that are still adding to the list, you know, just do so. In this whole document, you'll see there's a lot of things that we've always done. Never had any like, you know, it's never been a document, you know, and we ratified, ASCC ratified this for our last meeting, and now OSD, that's what the red stuff is, you know, there's some additional things that they want to work on, but we, you know, at least you've got something so that you can budget, you know, get down to the CP, you're going to know what you're eligible, and our goal was, we started the year, here's your budget guidelines. God, hope, pray, mercy, all the above. It will not be changed this fiscal year. And I know that's what everybody in your bag is looking for. Hopefully that's the point that we're at.
Yeah, as you look through here, Karen said, you know, we try to implement a lot of things that y'all had sent to her on what y'all would like to see. So we try to incorporate as much of that as we possibly could into this year's funding guideline. Of course, like I said, as she said, kind of giving you a guideline, we can understand you might want more if you have 10. You got 5 first and second, and 5 second or third and fourth. It would make sense for maybe you to have 2 instructors, 1 for each, just to make the training better for the apprentices overall. So we have allowed for that justification. Later, I will show you also. Now, we do have a justification on the 242, but that's more of a classroom location type of section. If we get something in this time and it's like, hey, you know, why are you wanting this? I'll reach out to you and say, hey, could you please provide us a justification on why you might want this extra additional instructor that typically you would not be able to receive. So, and then of course, we would be taking that under advisement when we look at approving the funds. Also, number 2, we just, as with what we done last year, we just got to put in the guidelines. TA grant funds will be used to pay for instructor expenses based on actual costs incurred for instructors and on the number of contact hours and so forth. Now, what we are going to do this year, as I said, cost reimbursement method. So when we first look at approving how or what the, like, this year we went with $40 an hour, for example. Okay, that was what we set for the limit. We look at how many programs we got, we look at how many instructors we're approving, we look at the amount of funds that we have to be able to be dished out to everybody. We'll set us a limit at that point, 40, 50, whatever it might be, okay? That is what we will use to provide you how much you are available to receive in funding for this fiscal year, all right? Now, unlike in the past where, hey, we cut you off at 40, if you pay your guys 50, if you want to ask for that $50, you can ask for that $50. We will provide it to you. But just remember, if we set it up on a $40 an hour contact hour rate, your funds that you would receive are based off that $40 an hour. Okay, so if you're asking for 50, you could be getting in a situation where you get to the end of the year where you might have funds, might miss out on some contact hours being reimbursed. Okay, so this is all going to be left up to each individual program to determine what they think is the best fit for them to use those funds throughout the fiscal year. Okay, so we give you $6,400 based off of $40 an hour, 160 hours. That's what you're at. You can ask for 45, 50, whatever that instructor actually is what you're actually paying that instructor. You can ask for that, but it's just coming off that top of that $6,400. Okay, so that's just the one thing. So y'all can go and get, more money for those instructors we're used to, where you would be, left out and wouldn't have some money that you could pay your people because you're paying them 45 or 50 or 60, whatever you're paying your guys. You would be, missing out on those funds and having to eat it yourself as the program. So you will be able to get that extra. Yes. So $40 an hour, 160 hours. Okay, $6,400. That's what program would be approved for one instructor. All right, that is the amount of money you will get on your grant letter saying that you were able to receive. Throughout that fiscal year, you can ask for whatever the cost of that instructor is. But just remember, you could get yourself in a position at the end of this year that you could run out of contact hours for money, basically, to be able to be reimbursed. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm paying one.
Well, maybe.
Now.
Yeah.
I'm paying 145.
Yeah, so it might even out. Yes.
So, under the FY 23.
Yeah.
I would have only got reimbursed 35 hour guy. And only 40 for the guy that I was paying 45.
Right.
Under the system. And 35 and ask for the 45. Whatever that comes up.
Right.
Cumulative total, what you're paying is stuff. Guys, we're in the apprenticeship business. We live and breathe off the wage progression scale. That was the biggest complaint that y'all had last year. $40 was half. So we had teachers in 20 years, reimbursed for brand new first semester, got his master's last year, you're not gonna start him at 40. So that's the reason that's what I'm saying. So if you're in a situation where your instructors are on the wage progression scale, it does allow you to adjust your instructor pay, what you're actually paying for them, not cost the board.
Y'all understand this? Anybody have any questions about this? Because this is going to be, something new, something y'all are going to be dealing with going this year. We just want y'all to be able to understand, you can ask for whatever you pay your instructor, but just remember we're only setting 1 hour amount at the beginning. We got to do something. We got to be able to set some amount to be able to award every program as far as contact hour, as far as what we're going to reimburse by hour. So we got to set that somehow to be able to figure out how to distribute the funds evenly across all programs. Now, of course, if y'all ever have any questions, all you got to do is let us know. Just like last year, number 6, we got it put in there. Is the monthly request for TA reimbursement shall include the supportive documentation of the actual amount of the amount actually paid to the instructor. So of course, as we did this year, we need copies of your payroll checks, etc., just like we done this year. So nothing's changing there. Number 7, you see this down here where it's kind of lined out. We just basically moved that down to number 8 because number 8 we set up to inform y'all of what we would be doing with the funds at the end of the year if any are available. Just so we're doing exactly what we did this year. If we have funds available at the end of the year, we'll be able to set whatever, find out how much money that is, see what percentage we could equally distribute out across all programs. And then we would notify you just as we did this year and let you know what your program would be able to receive for administrative expenses. And then just like this year, you would submit your documentation for those expenses and then we would reimburse you for those. So as you said, we're just trying to get some of this stuff actually put in the guidelines where it just wasn't ever really there to begin with. But hopefully this will help clarify what you can get and what would be available for you at the end of the year and how that whole process would go down.
Derek, before we get off this page.
Yes.
Number 1.
Yeah.
If you touch on the plus 8 additional hours, that's new this year.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that. All right, so in years past, let's just go like this. Plumbing programs, you were capped off at 160 hours. That is what your minimum is. That's what you are required. Electrical programs minimums are only 144, but yet they have been approved for 160. So they were basically getting up to 4 additional classes every year. So what we had done is put it right here, the number of approved instructors, time established contact hour rates, and instruction, just as we always done on the formula. Hours of instruction are limited to the program standards of apprenticeship, plus 8 additional hours to make up classes. Okay, so electrical program can now only get 152 hours reimbursed. A plumbing program would be able to receive 168. So we are going to be able to allow our plumbing programs to actually receive those additional makeup classes where used to y'all never had an opportunity. So we just cut it in half, gave half to the electrical, half to the plumbing. But this is, you know, when I saying that, that's just kind of the main mindset of what we're dealing with there.
Right, that's based on.
Yeah. So your standards, everybody's standards, you see them, you got a 4-year program, 5-year program, whatever it might be. Take that total of hours, RTI hours that is required, divided by the number of years that it takes to complete your program. That would be your minimum number of hours. That's what I'm saying. Electrical is 576 total, 144 a year. All right. So you would be able to receive 8 additional hours. Okay. By your minimum per year standard requirement. That is how we will be figuring this. Now, this applies to all programs. Okay, this isn't just electrical or plumbing, but that's just kind of where this conversation came from because of our plumbing programs not really being able to get those additional hours, and with these 2 trades that I'm talking of being our main licensed occupations that we deal with for apprenticeship. So we just want to try to make sure everybody has a chance to recoup some of those makeup classes that all programs typically like to try to provide. Yes. No, ma'am. They will only be allowed the 156. Yeah. Your minimum hours per year plus 8 is what we would allow. So That's all up to y'all on what y'all, when y'all turn in your stuff, how you want to do it. It's all based on y'all.
So if you do 160, those extra hours. The program can have to pay.
Correct.
Those that might be.
Yes. He was just asking, if he teaches 160 hours, but he's electrical program, but he's only allowed to get 152. Could he use those additional 8 hours at the end to be able to use for his administrative expenses that he might be able to receive? Yes, that would be something that would be allowed for those administrative expenses. We had that happen some this year. So, that's something else y'all can think about as we get closer to the end of the year. So the 8, we took the 7 here, this stuff down, moved it down to 8, just to get it in line with the actual 15% at the end, what is allowed, all that type of stuff. That is what we sent out on our letter this year, informing you of what would be able to be utilized for your administrative expenses. That is in the registered apprenticeship rule. So that is what we had used. Of course, we will monitor all this stuff throughout the year and just make sure we're still good on our money and all that as we go.
Sorry.
All right, so number 10, we did modify electronic recording class must be available to OSD to review for only 6 months now. It was longer before last year. So we knocked that down to 6 months if you're doing your virtual training. Other than that, those are all pretty much the same. We added section 4, additional information. Number 1, a copy of the review procedures and related policies will be provided at the annual training to include record retention requirements, applicable laws, rules, and guidelines. You will see them all in your books that you have there in front of you. Those are back in the appendix section, I believe. So that kind of gives you a brief or gives you actually the review documents that Mr. Belcock here has came up with and will be utilizing when he conducts the program reviews. So there's a copy of the electrical one, there's the plumbing one, and there's a miscellaneous one in the back. So that just kind of gives y'all an idea of what he would actually be looking at. When I get done today, he's going to talk more about that.
If for some reason you don't have it, there was one left over after I put the book together, which means that I might have to skip one. So if you don't have them, it's like a spreadsheet. It might be in a section. Don said, no.
It's probably up there in the front, actually.
That's right. Start. Oh, yeah, it's in the front, right before the forms, the guidelines. Yeah, there it is. It's in the front before the forms start. Sorry. That's it. No, that's it.
Number 2, in-service training on programs to be provided with funding guidelines, distribution method, required documentation, and a copy of program reviewing procedures and related policies during July annual training conducted by OSD. And if y'all see here, they're in front of you, and I emailed everything out to y'all here just the other day. And remember, I also included our electrical apprenticeship rules, our plumbing apprenticeship rules, our registered apprenticeship rules, which apply to everybody. And then also have our NCAC guidelines in there as well for your electrical programs. It talks about experience credit requirements, gives you your military stuff in there as well, as far as what type of job tasks that a person in the military might have been under. It gives outline of those. Those were done. Rick, when did y'all do those? Probably 15, 18, 17?
About 4 years.
Okay. About 4 years ago is when they had last reviewed those. So they had already went through and figured out what could be approved for when it came to the electrical stuff for experience credit. Three, went ahead and I had added this before, just kind of getting y'all requirements after approval for funded programs and all electrical and plumbing programs. So of course, we need our 230 forms submitted to OSD every time a school registers a new apprentice, cancels an apprentice, transfers an apprentice, or has an apprentice complete the program. B, if any time throughout the year, the schedule or your 242 application changes, because maybe your sponsor might change, location, something like that changes, just submit us a updated copy. So we have it. C, 236 is submitted by the 15th of each month. That is our funding form. And our 235 is our semester reports. They are required to be submitted by January 15th for the fall semester and June 30th for the spring semester. Added a note down here, only A, B, and D are required for electrical and plumbing programs when not funded. So there's many programs out there that we do not fund. I got multiple electrical programs and I do have some plumbing programs that are not funded by us. They choose not to. We check, they don't want it. They don't want to mess with us. So, but because of requirements in our electrical rules and our plumbing rules and having to go through and inform us of all this information, do the release to test, all that type of stuff. It is, just wanted to make sure that it was kind of clarified because guys, I would still provide this document to any program in the state because, our CT funds, even if you're not being funded through TDA, does not mean you would not be able to receive CT funds. As long as you're meeting all your criteria, submitting all this information to us properly, then you would still be able to send in a CT grant. Now, I don't ever have any of them do it, but they would still be able to if they wanted. Experience credit request applies to plumbing and electrical. We added that down there. So basically, first and foremost, if you have a local apprenticeship committee, it has to go through that committee first before it gets sent on to OSD to then be turned over to the SPAC or the SEAC committee. All right. Two, we updated that experience credit form last year, just trying to make sure everybody was aware of the documentation that is needed by those committees to be able to thoroughly review that apprentice's experience credit and actually be able to approve it. So just be mindful of making sure we get all that stuff turned in. And the first thing you can think about, I need OJT affidavits notarized from their employers. I need, in the state where they were from, did they require a license to do what they did? If they did, you need to submit a copy of their license during that time frame or from that state. They can probably provide you documentation that shows you that this apprentice was actually licensed during this time frame that you're submitting the OJT for. What's last? Can't remember last one. Yeah. Now, one thing to always remember, people, if the actual program or where these people came from, if they actually were going to the USDOL approved apprenticeship program, they come to here. It's nothing. They just need to notify us of it. That's all they got to do. Because all it is basically a transfer, just like y'all transfer from get transferred from one program to another here in the state. It counts 100%. All right. We just got to have that stuff submitted.
Military.
Oh, yeah, if you have the military stuff, of course, it does have on there, you need to be able to provide a copy of their DD 214. And any other information that they might be able to provide to help us prove that. Yes, David. Yes.
Ask that they send in that letter.
Okay. Gotcha. So what David's asking is if you're for the electrical, if you have an apprentice that was approved for experience credit, whenever they send in that application, please provide that letter that we provide you, letting them know how much credit was approved. So that way, when David gets it, for example, when he don't see a guy who just got a license 2 years ago, and now he's wondering how he's already getting approved a test. If he sees that approval letter for experience credit, he knows at that point, hey, that's why he's only got 2 years, because he was already approved for 2 years. So that just kind of keeps that flowing, a whole lot process flowing easier for everybody.
Do that again. No, bye-bye. There.
All right, so now we're here to our CT fund. Now, first and foremost, let me go ahead and say this. Talking to Karen earlier, normally we have that 15th of the month deadline for submitting CT applications. We're already past the 15th at this point, but if any of y'all have any CT applications that would be ready to go, you can go ahead and submit them to us. We'll get them reviewed in the August meeting and go ahead and start getting those funds to you as quickly as possible, because we know school's starting up. A lot of people have already had to start purchasing curriculum, code books, etc., getting ready for the school year. So if y'all have any ready, y'all can go ahead and submit them to us, and we'll go ahead and get them reviewed during the August meeting. So of course, Cody, you mentioned it earlier, these CT funds, there's a 15% surcharge for every $1,000 for a construction permit that is sold in the state of Arkansas. That is where we come up with this fund at, to be able to pay out for curriculum, code books, etc. So that's where we get that money from. Of course, we have our budget here, 800,000. Last year, we used 760,000. Now, we done that because we didn't know the way the economy was kind of going at that time. We didn't know if maybe all of a sudden our permits might kind of take a tumble on us. Well, we're still doing great. So we went ahead and kept it at 800,000 this year. We still had some money left over this year at 760. So we don't have no problems at all getting the money to our programs for the CT fund. Types of programs that are eligible, kind of gives you a list, but basically, if you're a program where they would actually be paying a permit fee for a construction project, you are eligible. If you're an IT program, sorry, we couldn't do it for you, because you're not paying in to the CT fund. These are only funds available for programs that have apprentices that work in these trades that already are helping increase this fund for us. Basically, just kind of this stuff here on section 2, stuff that's always been in there. There's no change there. All right, we added at the top here standard requirements. They were kind of sprinkled out everywhere through all our different little sections, and we just kind of took them and put them in all one kind of section that encompasses all of them. So, of course, CT applications can be submitted only for the cost occurred during the current fiscal year. All applications submitted before the 15th of the month will be reviewed at the next scheduled AACSC meeting. Last day to submit applications for the fiscal year is May 15th. Those will, of course, be reviewed in the June. Now, just remember, guys, our end of our fiscal year is into June. July 1, state starts a new fiscal year, so that's why we're in this hole only till June is when the last time we can review them, and then we've got to wait to start over again. All receipts for approved CP applications must be submitted by June 10th. That's at the very end. So, main thing is here, guys, we don't want to sit here and I don't want to have to sit here and be using funds out of fiscal year 24 to pay for a CT grant that you got approved for in fiscal year 23, but you never got us receipts until after. So when that happens, as a state, I have to pay them out of fiscal year 24. I don't want to be robbing from 1 year to take care of the last. So we got to have this stuff done on time. Fourth, invoices and receipts must be submitted by occupation. We done that last year. Your electrical, do electrical. Plumbing, do plumbing. If you got both programs, don't send me a CT application and receipts that all are all together. It is a pain in the butt trying to separate all that stuff after you send it into us. Trying to figure out, oh, this tax should be here, the shipping should be here. And we don't need to be doing that. It just messes everything. So we'll just keep doing what we had done. This year, last year, if y'all remember, about what, October, we said, hey, you know what? We can do 100% on everything. And then I had to go back and I had to go through every single application. I had to go back and repay all of it. Okay. Up to the 100%. So after seeing the amount of funds that were left over, as I said, and also with our increased budget, going back to the 800,000, we're going just like we finished the year, 100% for curriculum. Is what we're paying. Instructor guys, materials had always been 100%. So that's staying the same. Student curriculum was 75. We're going to 100% right from the get-go this year. We're not going to go back and forth. And then code books, 100%, a little different, you know. So as long as you're paying what you should, then you can be all right. You start trying to pay $200 a book, I can't help you. So 2023 NEC code book, 100%. Total cost of the code book for second year apprentices only. Fiscal year 24 maximum will be $145 plus tax and shipping. That was based off the amount that we were able to find that you can purchase the code book for right now. So you should be able to find it for this cost, or probably even less as we start progressing through the year possibly. So the 145 would be the max. We're paying 100% of it. Whereas last year we would have said 145, but you know what, we're only going to pay 75% of it. So we're just paying you 145 plus tax and shipping, 100% max. Plumbing, same thing, got our 100%. And that limit is 92.92 plus tax and shipping. That is based upon the MOU that the AACSC had got with ICC. So 92.92 is what that is. Now remember, you have to have a minimum of 20 code books in order to receive that cost. So hey, if you have a question, you have problems, you can't find somebody, let me know. I'll try to send you to somebody else and see if maybe, you know, 2 or 3 of you can possibly come together to make sure you get your 20, so y'all can get it at this price. Okay. So, because you know, some of our plumbing programs might be a little less than 20, and they wouldn't be able to get that price. They'd have to pay a higher price. So we don't mind y'all getting together on those and getting your 20 code books for your apprentices. This year, here 2 months back, just started July 1. We approved the SPAC committee approved the modern plumbing curriculum. That is a copy of the book that Cody was talking about that Karen has. That is seems awesome book. SPAC committee liked it. Rick Mahan liked it. It looked like everybody really enjoyed it. Also, it sounds like the price is a lot better than what some of the curriculum had been in the past that y'all were having to purchase. This right here, Apprenticeship Programs opting to utilize the modern plumbing curriculum. For this year, FY24 only, you would be able to receive code books for your first and second year apprentices. Typically, it's only your second year apprentices. Because this modern plumbing incorporates the code book into that first year, we are allowing you to go ahead and purchase the code that code book for plumbing for your first year apprentices and second year, this year only. Going forward, if fiscal year 25, if you're using modern plumbing, you will only be able to be allowed to purchase your code books for your first year apprentices. We'll get off the second, go back to the first for these modern plumbing curriculum. And as that stuff comes into me, guys, I'll have a spreadsheet going. I'll be outlining what all programs are using, so we can kind of keep track of what everybody's actually using out there. Of course, like I said, electrical, Even other trades, for example, we only get code books for second year. We don't replace lost or damaged books. During code change years, apprenticeship schools can only receive funding for the version coming out during the current fiscal year. None of that stuff has changed. Same thing. Equipment, nothing's changed with that section. It's still at the 20,000 year maximum per program that you would be eligible for. Instructor training is basically same as it was last year. Not really changing any of those requirements. Just be mindful of there, guys. We pay $50 an hour for those trainings, and we went ahead and added in there. The reimbursement was based on actual payment, because we did have a situation where we actually had someone submit it below the $50. I can't pay you the $50 if you only paid them $40. So we will reimburse you up to that $50 right now, unless something changes. Outreach. This is a big change that we've done this year because of numerous ideas and stuff that came in. And also, we never had an outreach and education section in our guidelines. So we thought it would also be a good idea to let you all know what's out there, what's possible. So each organization, so let's use NATF. They got places all around the state that they would be only eligible for NATF one time. They could get up to $1,000 per year to promote apprenticeship. Eligible items may include promotional items, banners, brochures, handouts, table runners, backdrops, rental of booths for trade show, promotional event, payment of staff or instructors to attend the promotional event. So, we ran into that. A lot of people do these little different events. He might be pro, be proud. Andrew was in here earlier going into his event. If he's needing money for you to be there, your organization could possibly get into that. There's a lot of different little trade shows around the state. So y'all can use that or even do your own. Just on your own, just trying to reach out to possible apprentices that might be out there. You would be eligible for $1,000 per program. Also, you're thinking of FFA stuff. We got Skills USA. Got outreach plan for diverse populations. Other promotional events may include adult education, CPSO, be proud, job fairs, career coaches, etc. So any of those things like that, y'all would be able to be using for this outreach and education. So hopefully that kind of clarifies what might be possible there. Without having that section, I know a lot of you weren't totally understanding of what possibly could be received from this outreach and education part of our CD. Other than that, of course, we got section 4 then, just to expedite the process for CT funds. Just make sure we get all our stuff completed, signed, along with all the required supporting documentation. And where hey, if you already got your receipts for your payments, go ahead and include those right then. That way we can get it approved by the committee, and then we can turn right around and pay it. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, try to do this as quickly as possible because hey, y'all are programs, y'all don't want to have to be out money any more than you have to. And if we can provide y'all with some money that will help better apprenticeship in the state of Arkansas and help your programs out, that's what we want to do. All right, so also I included this list in there. This is our approved curriculum for CT reimbursement at this time.
Can I tell him where they're located?
Yes.
It's located at the end of the 301, CT 301.
It's at the end of the CT application. As our electrical, all the different electrical curriculums that have already been approved for CT reimbursement. And then we have our plumbing. As you see here, we got modern plumbing now it's been added. So we got NCCR, PHCC, modern plumbing, Plumbing, we got Arkansas College of Electricity has been approved, our IBEW program. IEC is approved, my hope, NCCER, EPN Minnesota, and Russellville Apprenticeship Program. Now, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not even yet 2 years that I've been here. I mean, I see the ACE, Arkansas College of Electricity, the IBEW, I see Mike Holt, NCCER. I really don't see on too much of those stuff in the electrical stuff. Plumbing typically has been this NCCER. I don't even remember. I don't even think I've seen the program for plumbing. It used to be ACC as far as submitting for an application. And then, like I said, we approved the modern plumbing this year. Just figured I'd give y'all this so y'all kind of have an idea if you ever think about trying to maybe change the curriculum over or whatever. You'd already have an idea of at this time what is available. Now, you as a program don't like any of this, if you would like to see something else, you can always submit it to either the plumbing or the electrical committee. And we would take that upon review and decide if it's good enough curriculum for us to be able to utilize in your program. And then once it would be approved by them, then we can get it approved for our CT funds. So if that ever popped up. Forms. All right, let's see your 242 application. This is all PDF. Switched it over, make it a little bit easier instead of having to fill it out all by hand or on an Excel spreadsheet. So it is all PDF format on that I sent you out the other day. Everything else here is basically the same. Of course, we changed up the instructions just to kind of clarify actually the process, letting everybody know you can email them. You have something?
If you don't have it, let me know.
Let you know that you can email them to us instead of mailing them to us, just kind of clarifying that. Let you know when the classes are available. Right here, Rapids RTI per year. That's where I want to see what your minimum number of hours are per your program. If I see electrical program and you put 580, I'm probably going to go check Rapids and check myself. Okay. So, typically most of all of our programs really don't vary too much on our RTI components as far as electrical plumbing. So that's what we're looking at right there. Of course, like I said, these forms that I sent y'all, once you get them, even with our 230 form, I'll show you here in a bit. They've been set up in a PDF format that is fillable instead of the Excel sheet. So when you're doing the signature part, when you first do it, you'll just have to set up your signature once you get in there. And then after that, all you would have to do is go click on that little red thing on your form. It asks for your little password. You put it in, it's going to put out your signature, and we got it. It tells you your date, your time, everything. So that way, trying to just make it a little easier for us, y'all, where y'all aren't always having to go and print stuff off and sign it and send it back and forth and all that stuff. Trying to make the process a little easier for you. This section right here at the bottom, we added that. If your application is for a new class location or a new occupation, provide a justification below for why the new location / occupation is needed in your area. You can provide a separate document if necessary. And I just seeing this is one thing I forgot. You'll notice in our guidelines, we took out the 30-30 rule. That is not in there. Basically, we're saying, hey, if you want to open up a new one, new class, new occupation anywhere in the state, just provide us with a justification of why that is needed in that area, why or whatever. Something, meaning some type of justification of why you're needing to add this program. Yes, I would agree. Yes. Yeah. If you already been there, you've been doing it, I don't need this. All right, this is not needed. This would only be needed if you're actually adding a new one for a new location or occupation. Just to that's just to help us make sure we don't end up funding 12 different programs in one little tiny city. That's not necessarily the best use of our TA funds. If we're just saturating one little tiny area with a bunch of apprenticeship funds, whenever we got a whole state to be helping out. Other than that, kind of cleaned it up. Had to change this format in number 6, because the format in number 6 used to talk about where you're agreeing to not using no more than 15% of those funds for administrative expenditures, et cetera. Since we went to this cost reimbursement methodology, we just removed that totally, and just put in a brief statement saying that, you know, that it's due no later than the 15th. When the May report is due, or our May report is due no later than June 5th. That helps us on the process of getting our information to y'all on what y'all would be allowed to receive from administrative expenses left over at the end of the fiscal year. That gives us by June 5th, that just helps us put a bow on it a lot easier and close out our fiscal year. And that's about it there. Class roster, nothing changed here, same thing. Last name, first name, middle name, social record, instructor years. So this would be what would be turned in with your 242, your main application for funding.
Hey, Derek?
Yeah.
Adding name to that. We haven't seen
Adding rows.
I don't have a PDF for this one.
But it's possible, and
You should be able to. I'll mess with it and check, but I don't. I see stuff sent to me all the time with it, so I'm assuming, I don't know, I just have to check. If you have a problem, just let me know and we'll figure out what's going on with it.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is supposed to do that.
Yeah, and just remember, guys, I sent those forms out to y'all the other day, and as I said in that email, take all those old forms you got, I want to see them thrown in the trash. All right, I'm tired of seeing forms from 21. Okay, and then you're wondering why you didn't know about stuff. So we tried to do a lot on the clarification part on the forms to help y'all out, especially on our 230 form that you'll see here in a minute. Trying to help you out in regards to stuff that David has talked about today, and you know, the plumbing and everything, just trying to make it easier for y'all when y'all read that form to already kind of know what you should be doing. Class schedule, you see this is different. So first things first, up here, hours per class, it says 4, y'all can change it, put 3 or 4, whatever, however many hours you're doing this year, okay, per class. Put that total in right there. And all you gotta do is put in your dates, just like you always have. As you put in those dates, depending on how many hours right here, it's gonna tell you how many hours you're teaching that month. Okay? So that way, this is just from stuff I've dealt with since I've been here. This hopefully will help y'all realize exactly when you might be running out of funding, when your hours might be up, what you actually turned into us per month, all that. Y'all can even take that form right there and use it as just kind of help you out on what you submitted on your 236 possibly even throughout the year, just to kind of help you know where you're at and how much you got left. As you fill this in, as you fill these dates up, it will accumulate here. It'll give you a total right here. As you see, makeup classes do not figure into total hours. So if you put any dates down here on these makeup dates, they don't figure into this overall total here. Okay, just so y'all know. But like I said, you add the dates, it adds up. Same thing down here. These all add together and give you your total hours right there. So that way, just kind of give y'all something to look at and see and actually realize actually what you're asking for. Like I said, we get that get sent in with our roster, our schedule, and our 242 application. Local apprenticeship committee forms. If you have a local apprenticeship committee.
Back to class schedule for a second. When I do class visits, I'm gonna be using the class schedule to go do the visits, but you know, so if you change it or change the day, please let us know.
I did show up for one program last year on the wrong day. And I was told that the whole year they've been teaching you on a Monday, not Tuesday night, no problem, but we weren't aware, so. But you know, I thought we'd do more business.
And guys, that's why we ask to have that information, you know, if you're gonna change a class, all of a sudden, hey, it's not a big deal, just let us know. Because, you know, with COVID and everything like that, you know, the whole classroom checking had kind of stopped. Starting last year, we started back on the classroom checks, making sure you're there, making sure you're doing what you're supposed to. As far as having class, all your students are there, your instructors there, and all that type of stuff. So, and also, when we've been checking, you know, maybe in the past, might just be a drive-through check. Don's actually been going in there, talking to these apprentices, talking to these instructors when he stops at these classes. And, you know, and having those conversations. So, you know, if you're gonna not have class one night, hey, just shoot us an email. That's all we're asking. It'd be nice to have this resubmitted, but, you know, at least let me know all that stuff that I got sent to me last year. I tried to make as many modifications as I could with spreadsheets I used. And then I went and put them in all your folders that we got in our office whenever I was told that you weren't having class. They all got put in there. So we know exactly what's going on at the end of it. So, but that's why this is very important. Back to local committee, if you have a local apprenticeship committee, fill this out, send this to us. This is probably not ever going to be utilized by us at all, but if we got a big problem with a particular program, we might reach out to maybe one of these committee members. You know, we had one problem last year, actually kind of year before, approved a CAT grant for a program. That program never paid ICC for code books. Okay, so then they're calling me all the time, wondering how they get in contact with these people. Because they sent them all these code books. They never paid them. So thank goodness for us as a state, that that's going away from how the old model was and only paying them until we had the receipt. We didn't end up getting caught on the hook for anything that way because we had already paid that apprenticeship program for those code books. So at this point in time, I'm going to tell you, I still don't know what they are paid for those code books. But like I said, we approved it, but we never paid them for it because they never provided a receipt. So, why in the world would they send all those code books to a program without getting paid for it? I have no idea, but maybe they learned their lesson there. All right, here's our 230 form. I recently updated this, and then I did a little revision just to kind of help us out here and make it easier for everybody. So of course, this is the fillable PDF, same thing on the signatures, making it easy. Our reinstates plumbing. Send form to OSD and Arkansas Department of Health with reinstate application. Attached statement or note below what work the apprentice has been doing since their license expired. That's what plumbing is wanting to see. Reinstate for electrical, send form to OSD, complete reinstatement in ELP. OSD signature needed if license has been expired for over a year. And notarized statement noting what the person was doing during the expired time frame. So just kind of going back off of what Department of Labor's already said this morning. That's why we kind of hoping everybody uses the right form. So hopefully this can add some clarification for y'all when y'all are having to run through some of this stuff. Release the test. I had added residential exam only box over there. For a while, we've been having to go in there and add text to it, let them know, or write on there residential only. I added a little box over there, so all I gotta do is go over there and check it. So if it's just a residential exam, you can check that, because if not, then Department of Labor is wondering why I just approved somebody with only half the amount of hours that they need. So electrical, send form to OSD after sending the form back, upload it to the online application with Arkansas DOL. Plumbing, send form to OSD. After receiving the form back, send it and examination application directly to the Arkansas Department of Health. So that is how those processes go from release to test, for both of those. So, also, the transferring an apprentice, email a copy to Cynthia McLean. She is our USDOL representative that took over for Randy Fraser. So I got her email down here. Also, plumbing only. When reinstating or canceling an apprentice, please email a copy to adh.phc@arkansas.gov. That is their way at this point in time of knowing when an apprentice has been canceled or reinstated. Right now, since we've done this and talked with health, if I get this in and I don't see them included on my email, on the email when I get it sent to me, I go ahead and email a copy of that cancellation or reinstate written. Just to make sure he has it from where it is. So, and also, please remember, email the forms to osd.oa@arkansas.gov. And when I say forms, I mean all the forms. Okay, we got a lot of programs we deal with. So by sending all the forms there, we got all the forms in one email. I have access to it. Don has access to it. So if one of us is out, Don can do it, vice versa. We can both get on it, work on it at the same time. We don't have to look at each other's emails, all right? So if you got an email just about just a single question or whatever, yeah, go ahead and email us directly. But if we try to get these forms all sent to here, it just kind of helps us make sure we don't miss any. Because I got a folder over there for every single program. After it's completed, it gets checked and moved over into your folder. So we got it, since I've been there, I got everything else been sent us. That way we can always go back if we need to. Here's your semester report. Nothing's changed here. Just remember, classroom location number, that's whatever that number is, whenever we first send that approval application to you. You have multiple locations. I list every one of those locations and tell you how much money is approved for each location, how many instructors, etc. So that number that's out there would be the number I want to see on this. As Cody alluded to earlier, we have our database system. Now, I've been using it since February of 22, every day. So it's set up. If you got, Marigold Electric, they got their own thing, own schedule list, all their apprentices connected to that program inside their thing. It just, JT in it, RTI, I mean, it's just really great. I can't wait to get it out to y'all. There's uploads. So when y'all send me semester reports, I got to upload. I don't have to go in there and put in a social, a school, a year, and hours. That was the way our old database system was. I had to put in 4 things to put one person's hours in. And you know what? It took any social you could imagine. It didn't have to be linked to nobody. It would take it. All right. So now with my system now, and I know I've dealt with many of you, when y'all send an email to me, I'm like, hey, this person was already registered. Well, I know that because as soon as I put that social in, it's going to tell me, hey, this person's already in the system. Then I can go start backtracking, go check that apprentice's file and see what school he last attended. Then I'll go and let you programs know, hey, here was his Rapids number. This was the school he's going to. Get with them and get the transfer. All right. Because I think we all know USDOL Rapids does not do a very good job on making sure you do not have duplicates. I'm going to tell you, my first thought is, since the social is not required by U.S. Department of Labor, I assume they don't check that at all when in their system. How could you check that at all if you don't even require it? It don't make any sense. So I'm assuming that's why we run into these people getting put into Rapids multiple times. So with my system, as soon as we put it in there, I know if they're already in there. So that's helped to streamline a lot. So, and like I said, this semester report, y'all send this to me. I copy, paste, get it put in a certain order on Excel spreadsheet, hit a button, boom, it's done. put everybody's hours in one click after I do my copy and paste. Makes my time a whole lot easier. I got the same thing for new apprentices. I can put in however many you want at one time. All I gotta do is type it out on a spreadsheet. All right. Same thing for, say, semester reports, our hours, uploads, cancellations, active. You send me 20 cancellations, I can do it one time, one shot in, upload, done. All right, makes it a whole lot easier for me. That's why I hope to get this out to y'all soon, where y'all don't have to send me 2230 forms. Okay, you would just be able to go in there yourself, do your Excel document, shoot it in, and you're done. So, it is very nice, and it's helped me out a lot. After Rocky left me, it's just me for a while. So before I got Don, so now that I have this stuff here, man, it makes it a whole lot easier on me when I'm having to deal with all of y'all plus more. So, it is great. Like I said, can't wait to get to you. Here's our 236 form. This is our reimbursement form. Nothing's changed here. The only thing we've done, just because Janet does it a lot, is we added total contact hours down here. So whatever these hours are here, they'll add up right there, and that's just a little check for us, just to know how many hours, keep up with that as we go. As far as total hours that we're being reimbursed for this whole thing. Like I said, other than that, nothing's changed on it. Here's our experience credit request form. As I said, you add how many years of requested credit there, and that would be basically what the apprentice thinks they should get. And then right here, check all the following that has been supplied: OJT, notarized affidavit, military experience, license, annual registration. And I say that because some states require you to be licensed. Some states might only require you to be registered. So you might not actually have a license, but you're registered in their system. So just one way or the other, just kind of keeping y'all aware of what is needed. Also, all documentation must be specific in all phases and notarized for consideration. Proof of license registration during the OJT timeframe submitted if required, if applicant OJT form and state has required it. Experience credit, if approved, will be granted for the classroom and on the job training. And you have 60 days to file for experience credit from the date of your apprentice application. Review state rules for any other requirements. Of course, our plumbing apprenticeship committee, our SEAC guidelines, they've kind of already done something with that in the past and put the word originally in there as far as the 60-day time frame. So that kind of limited us there. But in plumbing, they looked at it, hey, if Bob's here and he's going to school, at this location, and he has to leave out of state for some reason, and then all of a sudden he moves back, they are okay with us going ahead and being able to use that time while they were out of state, be able to be approved for experience credit. So that's kind of the modification there. That change. Of course, local committee, this is if you have one, y'all will be filling this out. We should see every bit of this filled out. My thought is, guys, if you don't know how much experience credit a person should be receiving, why should the electrical or the plumbing apprenticeship committees, how could they have an idea? Y'all should be able to know. I know a lot of times people want to argue with you on what they think they should be approved for. It happens. All right. But as a local committee, you can do what you need to do. They can always appeal to the state plumbing or state electrical apprenticeship committee if they don't like what they're hearing from the local apprenticeship committee. So that's kind of how that appeal process goes. But if there is no local committee, it just comes straight to us at that point, goes to the plumbing or the electrical committee, whichever one. So some places have local, some don't. Don's had some conversations with some of our programs. Hey, it's not a bad idea if you don't have one to have one. That just kind of keeps everybody off of you if they don't like what you're saying to them. They can at least have a committee to help fall back on and help support you. All right, here's our CT application. Nothing's really changed here, except for the fact that we got everything at 100%. All that stuff has been changed in what y'all received the other day to the 100% categories. Our code books should, according to those amounts that we just discussed earlier, as long as it's under that 145 or 145, it'll take it no problem. If you put 160 over there, you're gonna see 145 over there. So, same thing with our plumbing, it'll do the same thing. It will cut you off and try to go above. It's only, even if you put 95 over here on the actual cost, it's only gonna give you the 92 when it comes over here. So, but other than that, that's there. Training. So we looked at our 242, our 233, 234, our application, our roster, our schedule are all required to be turned in by no later than August 25th of this year. Be approved for funding for this fiscal year. Now, of course, if you need to add new instructors, something comes up during the year, we can look at it. All right. Typically though, we usually don't, new instructors, apprentices or new programs, stuff like that. Typically, we're not gonna look at till probably January. If you got it and you already know, let us know. Then in our 253, if you have it, needs to be submitted. Committee action form is our 230 form. Our 235 is our fall and spring semester reports. 236 is our reimbursement form. And then we have our experience credit request. And then also forms submitted to other agencies. Got application for apprentice electrical license, Department of Labor and Licensing via internet portal. Application for testing, electrical only. Then 230 to OSD for signature. After the sign RAP, upload it to the application and submit it to the Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing PLE portal. Application for apprentice plumber license, submit to Department of Health. Application for testing, plumbing only. Then 230, release the test, OSD for signature. After you receive the sign, release the test back. Submit it and application for testing to Arkansas Department of Health. Just kind of put that in there, that way you're seeing it on your 230 form. Also, and then you can also have this as a kind of a checklist as you're going through, trying to see what you got. I tell you, I hate that y'all are having to do one thing one way and one thing another. So hopefully at some point, maybe we can kind of get them all on the same plane there. CT application. We talked about it. Got all our forms on there, curriculum, student books. In the appendix in the back, you'll see our 2023, 2024 dates to remember. That's basically when stuff is supposed to be due into OSD. We got an apprenticeship tax credit flyer is in the back. So if you, especially, if you see that, if you have any questions, I can also send you the digital version, which at that point you kind of click on it and take you to different places. We got our OSD contact information. We got our state plumbing, electrical, and our AACSC members list in the back. After I get these 242s in at the end of August, I am going to update my contact list that I have for all the apprenticeship programs, and then I'm going to send it out to y'all. So y'all have a list of who's who, where you're at, phone numbers, emails, all that. So that way you don't have to start trying to track down who's who and where they're at. Those phone numbers you'll have. I know y'all deal with that a lot. You're dealing with transfers. So hopefully that will help you out. Any questions?
Okay.
Yes.
What I'll do, I do my electronic signature on my form, and I will email it.
Yep.
To my LEA.
Mhm.
Then he'll,
They can do the same thing?
just like he's doing this year, except back.
Yes, sir. Yep. Correct. Yeah. And I sent one out. I sent this stuff out the other day. I already got one. So I already had somebody submit already.
I mean, they on the ball. Yes. As far as OJT affidavits, are you talking about as far as the release to test and so forth? Yeah. So of course, David had mentioned to us earlier, I got it back here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get a copy of that, see if I can make it available. And then I'm gonna send it to y'all. And that'd be the newest updated version of their OJT affidavit that they require. Now, as far as Arkansas Department of Health, typically, when you get in that OJT affidavit, you're just looking for something typically on the company letterhead, something to that effect saying, John worked for me from this date to this date, he cured X amount of OJT hours, and then have it notarized by, by the notaries. And then that would just be submitted with their application. Yes. Yes, yeah, well, that would be electrical. I was talking about plumbing.
Oh, plumbing.
Yeah. Now, as far as the electrical, you might want to grab one back there, Rick, that Janet's got one over there. That's one. I grabbed that copy of, grabbed that stack of, OJT affidavits that, electrical brung. We're sitting back here on the corner if y'all want to grab one before you leave, but I'm going to try to mess with it, see if I make it a little bit more user friendly. Okay, all right. So we got that, and he's also going to send me. Remember, he's also going to send me those Q&As that he went over earlier. He's going to give me those, and then I'm going to go ahead and send that out to all y'all as well, so y'all have that for use. Yes, Michelle. Did anybody have any training the trainer classes scheduled? You know, and I don't think so. Yeah, and also I know, that's another thing. She does hers virtual. Yeah, and in person, so she does multiple options. If you didn't hear everybody, we lost two of our program sponsors that have been around for years. We lost Donna Line from Conway and Linda Russian from UAM. Both of them retired this year. So when Donna had been doing a lot of the trainers for many years. So and that's a good thing, guys. Y'all need to think about, these your teachers. I mean, hey, I was a master electrician, an electrical inspector at the time when I started teaching. And, you have a lot of knowledge and, hey, being around doing your, on the job learning with the guys, you talk with them, stuff like that, it teaches so much as far as how they do the job. At that point, you don't really get into the code too much. But as far as for an instructor getting into it, going through that class, it does help. It does give you some ideas that you might be able to use in those classes to maybe make you a better instructor for your apprentices. So, especially working out in the field all the time, doing plumbing, electrical, whatever, just getting in there and kind of getting here in a different mindset, thinking of the way people, learn. Everybody learns a different way. Some people like seeing it on the board. Some people want it hands-on. I mean, there's all different options out there. Just doing what needs to be done to help those apprentices is what we need to be trying to accomplish here. And these trainer classes are great for them. And hey, they're making money while they're doing it. And so it's good for everybody. I've done two of them whenever I was doing it, because I like that $400 for 8 hours. That's pretty nice for a Saturday. Yeah. So it is good idea. If y'all haven't been into it, First year instructors can do 16 hours of that in 1 year. After that, they can do 8. So, it is good, and really, I'm seeing those CT applications, not many people take advantage of it at all. So, there's very few of those that get sent out. So those are good things to use. Anybody else? Yep. It is easier. Now, I do have my workarounds, but it is easier because it don't always like doing what I want it to. So, I mean, I was messing with one the other day. Man, the first sheet looked great. Second sheet, it was all crazy on me. And it took me about 5-10 minutes trying to get it cleaned up. But you know, that is very easy. I figured, you know, we got the forms to try to use. Anybody else? All right. Don. I'm turning it over to you.
You're on.
All right, somebody wants a break. All right, break time.
I could snap.
Hey, real, hey, real quick, while we're starting this break here real quick, can we give Derrick a round of applause real quick? I think we need to get him a bottle of water and maybe some air. He's been up here talking for a little bit, but, you know, really just want to say thank you to Derrick, Don, the team, Karen, Greg, David, and, you know, the whole committee, just for all the work that went into putting these funding guidelines together. So, we'll break for about 10 minutes and then we'll get back into it.
Right. I'll tell you what. Unless I see that it's maybe I would say, it might say like, you know, or something like that. That's the training in the first. Yeah, I would. It is for me. I'm looking at these. Yeah, we only do contact hours.
But yes, that should be all the form.
Yeah, so as long as I see that. Now, what you do is. Copy the text with that. I think just on. No, well, on 36, you just put down some. All these. Okay, so we'll just pay straight whatever you say. Yeah, if it's a 1099, we'll pay them whatever. Yeah, why? Power. Gotcha. And so so, this is what we're doing now. I don't know how we're gonna end up, so now it's kind of. So we're trying to clarify that. Good.
So I do need to go back to her and say that.
Yeah, see, if you can get something in there that you're already not that. So then I should be able to help out. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Like I said, we always gotta look at everybody, and those are available and all that, so, but with that being there, then I possibly, if not, then I'm.
But, you know, it's already. Spending it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, y'all are good, because y'all are already in the program, there won't be a problem. Yep. I'm making it, no problem. Yep. Let me know.
I know exactly what he calls it. And like Arkansas, the apprentice capital. You gotta get there somehow. So there's some change. Sarah. He's kind of. Well, that's real work. We used to go to fund service. Give them like a 2-minute window.
About 2 minutes, but we'll get started about 2 minutes, okay? 10 more minutes. Okay. It does.
I'm gonna let you guys. I can, I guess.
Okay.
Derek was gonna run a video for me, so.
Oh,
let's see.
which one is he gonna do that first?
That veterans one. Well, I'm gonna do something first, then I want him to.
So you need to go way back.
Yeah. I have to go backwards then, and then forward. That's why I thought you guys could take care of it. I don't like being in front of people.
Well, when gets it?
Oh, you do great, Don.
I'm not like you. I'm not like you. I'm not like you.
Like the old, like the jump more to the side.
Yeah.
I know.
Hang on a second, Dawn. For some reason, it's not in there. Hang on. Don't do anything yet, Dawn. We gotta fix something. For some reason, I don't see all of your, just hang on. I don't see your other things in. I put them all in there.
I don't know.
Let me find, I think you find my flash drive. I had it this morning. Did I put it back in the time? I don't know. We're missing something. Don't start it yet.
Nothing to start.
Oh, I was gonna say, don't start.
Nothing to start, just trying.
Undistracted. Or it dawns on me. We are. Okay. I don't know. He just wanted it. He wasn't in spirit, or he just wanted it for a record. Hang on, wait just a minute.
Are you done?
I don't think his forks are in there.
Huh? Yep.
No, I couldn't find them. I don't think they- But they will be.
Oh, here's there. Here's this one. That one. Now,
We're gonna go and get started. Y'all hear me now?
them two's the only one he wanted in,
A little bit closer.
and then his other ones.
Those big apples.
I apologize. I'm not as boisterous or loud as some of the other.
Here's the other ones.
I'm gonna have the mic right up here and try to talk as loud as I can. First of all, do we have any veterans in here? Can you stand? Any veterans? Stand down. One question. Did you guys use your education benefits when you got out of the military? Raise your hand, you did? Okay. Did you know you could use it for an apprenticeship program when you got out? Okay. That is a misunderstanding that a lot of people don't understand when you get out of the military. And so, in this second, there's a play full of video, and even in this video, it doesn't mention apprenticeship. That apprenticeship is what they consider on-the-job training. And so you can use your education benefits in the program. Hey, Derek, is the video ready to go?
We're chatting.
Sorry, wait there. All right. There he is.
So with VA education benefits, veterans like you can be educated or trained for just about any career you can imagine. Did you know these benefits are not just for a college degree? Become a chef, cosmetologist, first responder, hotel manager, or mechanic, or train in another vocation. Did you know if you're heading to college, VA's Yellow Ribbon program could open up educational opportunities at higher cost private universities? The end of military service marks the start of something new. VA encourages all veterans to explore available benefits that can help you learn and achieve more in life after service. If you served after September 10, 2001 and otherwise qualify, the post 9/11 GI Bill may cover tuition, fees, training, plus provide you with a housing allowance and money for books and supplies. With these benefits, possibilities abound. Earn a bachelor's, graduate, or law degree. Receive technical training in business, computer science, or another profession. Train on the job, get licensed, and do so much more. The Montgomery GI Bill and other programs to educate and train veterans from previous service eras may also be available. Realize your potential, invest in your future. Explore VA education and training benefits today.
Hi, I'm Marine Corps veteran Paul Corbett, and if you are a veteran who has 100%.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. So what's interesting is most veterans don't know they can use their education benefits to go to the apprenticeship program. And so even in the video that the VA created, it just says on-the-job training or other vocation. And it, again, it's kind of misleading a little bit, but that's kind of where it is. Several of you guys I met when I was working with Veterans Education, and I did apprenticeship reviews, and apprenticeship approval. So, me talking about this, I have a little bit of experience doing this. I did this for almost 4 years, working with the VA, but now I'm not with them anymore. So, as far as actually approving, someone from the VA Education Office has to approve you guys for a veteran. Can I get a show of hands of how many programs here have been approved for the VA program? Okay, great. Most of you guys have, and so most of you really kind of know the program already.
one thing I wanted to show you guys is that, you know, most people don't understand the GI benefits, the post 9/11 benefits. But what maybe you aren't aware of is those benefits can be assigned to your children. So a veteran may have assigned their education benefits to their children before they got out. And so it's not always just veterans that can use this, sometimes their kids can use it too. And the other thing is on the second page there, if they're a spouse or a dependent of a 100% disabled or deceased veteran, they can also use education benefits. So you need to find out whether or not they're under that category. Because if they have that, they can also receive benefits. And one of the first things I always heard from veterans when they ask about using their education benefits, how much will I get paid? And I don't know if you guys hear that too. They want to know how much money they're going to get. And so what I've done here is I kind of broke it down to 3 different types of programs. There's the post 9/11, which everybody gets paid their monthly housing stipend. For the first 6 months, they get 100% of that. And if you go to the third page, we'll get that second. Yeah. I actually broke it down by city, how much the monthly housing allowance is currently right now. So if you notice, the first 6 months there is listed, and that's how much they would receive if they're post 9/11 and they're going to your apprenticeship program. Now, there is a caveat there. They have to work at least 120 hours in a month to get that full benefit. Otherwise, it's going to be prorated benefit. The other thing that we get at the beginning of the program, they get $1,000 stipend for books and supplies. That's a check that goes straight to the veteran. And they can use that to buy tools or whatever they need to assist them in their apprenticeship program. Then if you look at the next 6 months, it drops down to 80%. So it does decline. And then it drops down to 60%. I believe 60% is the lowest it'll go. So again, just to let you know, veterans can go to your program, but you need to ask them if they have education benefits. And then again, of course, children of veterans that have the education benefits, they can use those. And also the deceased and 100% disabled and deceased veterans, they can also use that. So when you ask the question, you may just want to make sure you have other education benefits from the VA that might be applicable for them attending the program. Did most of you guys, were you guys aware that the disabled veterans, Chapter 35, or the 100%? Okay, a lot of people didn't know that. And that's one of the big things a lot of people don't realize. Those people are also included in using their VA education. Now, I do have, again, I have a passion for this because being a veteran, I want to make sure that our veterans get whatever education benefits they can while they're attending the program. And again, I appreciate all you guys that are approved. If you haven't been approved, you need to contact Bill Dedner, my former boss, or Carlton Lawyer, and they can help get you approved. There's contact information on there. There's a phone number, and then also there's a link to their website. So if anyone has any questions on that, again, I'll be glad to help you, point you in the right direction. And they'll actually help you. And I think they normally, do they still do a review almost every year of y'all's programs? Okay. So yeah, they'll be coming after this. If you do get approved, they're usually good people to work with, and there's not any issues with the review process. So now I was going to take a break and move on to Derrick, but apparently now I get to go to my compliance portion of it. So we're going to step up, talk about state regulation. Now, this wasn't included, and we can send this to you, by the way. This is for record retention requirements. In section 7 of the Arkansas Registered Apprenticeship Program rules, it says that the written documentation of the training consisting of time written sheets, student signing sheets, or other documents as approved by the SAO and CSC will be kept on file by the program sponsors for a period of not less than 5 years. And the other documentation includes your CP. So it should be on file at your program for 5 years. Now, I've also added on here the federal guidance. And of course, they also have a 5-year requirement. And that's under section, CFR part 29, CFR 29, part 30.12. And it's a maintenance of records there that, they must be maintained for 5 years from the date making of the record or the personal action involved. And so when I read that personal action involved, if they complete it, you have to keep them for 5 years. And I think that also means we have to keep all the apprenticeship records. So if they started the apprenticeship 4 years beforehand, you actually got to keep 9 years worth of records. Or more, depending if they get done in 4 years. So, and unfortunately, we have a lot of guys that don't get done, or gals that don't get done in 4 years. So you're gonna have to keep your records for quite some time. So, is there any questions on record retention? We actually have records going back to 1995 in our office. But now electrical wasn't required till 1998. That's when the apprenticeship program started, so we don't have any really records before that time. I'm in the process of digitizing all those, so that's, like I said, we've got them, and we can actually look them up when I digitize them. I can look them up by name, as long as they're not handwritten. The handwritten ones are going to be the only problem we have. There's a few programs that have to handwrite in a few people, but if you have the name of the program, we could probably narrow it down to the year that they attended. And yes, we all have all those records at our office, and we get calls all the time asking us to look those up. And they're big binders. So that's why we're trying to get them all digitized. And so that we can actually search that at our computer as opposed to going to the back room and pull all those records. Any other questions? What?
Yes.
No.
That's
It's not
not.
the retention.
Oh, okay.
I can
Just
send
have
it.
me put that in there.
Because
Yeah,
part of
it
it's in
needs to be-
CFR, and I wanted to put that also because the requirement's also there federally, it's also there for us in a program. Did you send out the program rules? Okay, so it's in the apprenticeship program rules, section 7. I'm gonna go over the next section fairly quickly. And because I did an Excel spreadsheet, I'm actually gonna do it here on my computer. I'm not looking up here. So I can do this. Okay, and I'm just gonna go over us looking at in the electrical.
But they have them all in their booklet.
Yeah, they're all in your booklet. They're all 4 types of reviews are in the booklet. And what I actually decided to do, since I was asked to create this, I actually went to an old VA form and adopted their format, but I put in the information as it relates to our electrical plumbing, miscellaneous, in our administrative review process. So, first off, if you look at the first question, is the apprentice sponsor name and contact information the same as the apprentice? Since I became a program advisor, I now have access to Rapid, that I can look that up. So I'm going to make sure that that is accurate. And then if the program receives state funds, that's going to be obviously, I need to pull the information, my new program review, that shows the CT grants you received and the TA funding that you were approved. Now, look at a sampling of those.
Yeah, they got it.
Currently, I'm looking at 3 months of TA reimbursement. And what I'll be looking at, when I look at TA reimbursements, making sure you have sign-in sheets and appropriate documentation that goes along with those 3 months that I'm testing. The second thing I'll do is I'll look at CT grants to make sure everything is accurate, correct. What's interesting this year is we had one of our programs had to refund us some money because They ordered the equipment, some welding equipment, and they found out that welding equipment was not what they needed. They actually got the vendor to take it back and swap it out for some other equipment. In the process of doing that, we found out that they netted about $950, which was not allowable. So after reviewing the documentation, they had to send that money back into it. So that's a kind of a unique situation where we've had somebody overspent, or actually didn't overspend. They traded some equipment back, and they had to pay back money to the state because the cost of work. So when I do the review, I'm going to sit down to the next section here. All these things that I'm looking at in the electrical program are under the electrical rules for local committees. And it says they shall do these things. Shall means that it is required for them to do it. It's not can or may, but shall. So if you have an electrical committee, local committee, I'm gonna make sure for electrical purposes that every 2 months, at least, that you have a meeting. And I'm gonna look to see that you have notes of some sort of accusation showing that meeting. I'm gonna just quickly look to see if you annually select a chairperson and secretary. I'm gonna look next to see if the administrative the apprenticeship program enforces provisions and requirements, basically, probably from the notes, lifetime will be some information noted on the. The fourth item I'll be looking at is a review apprenticeship agreements. With the employer, apprentice, and program sponsor. Typically, you're gonna be using the EPA 671, and I'm gonna look to make sure you're using the current EPA 671. When I first went out to the review, I found a few programs that were using forms from 1997, 2001, 2004, and so this was the 2018. So I did go out, found the current form. If you don't have it, we have a copy of the current active form that you can use. There's a lot of changes from 1997 to 2018. And so in those changes, there's some different questions that are asked. All this information, the same stuff you put into Rapid with registered apprentice. So I just want to make sure that is in place and that there are appropriate signatures where it's necessary. Now, sometimes you may have an employer agreement separate from the EPA 671, and that's fine, as long as it's all documented, that you have all the proper signatures in place. The next thing I'll be looking at is where am I at? Number 5, determine for examination the progress of apprentice in skills, technical knowledge. And this may be very necessary and it should be done 4 times a year. So I'm just going to find out whether you're doing it. Most of you guys, I think, actually have tests almost done every night. And that the process, you just report the test grades. But we just want to make sure that you're actually determining if they're actually doing what they're supposed to. Number 6 here, determine whether or not you issue certificates of completion when the apprentices following the satisfactory completing the program. And that was one of the things I did find out back in 2018 is that several programs were not issuing those certificates. I think most everyone's doing that now. Thank you for all you guys that are doing that. But again, if you're not showing the completion being put into Rapid, then when the federal program, when the federal DOL tells us how many completers we have, those numbers are not going to be accurate. So it's going to not completely state that correctly, and it'll also affect your completion rate. The next item is number 7, that you notify the Office of Administration, our office, and the Department of Labor, all actions. We require you to submit that within 30 days on the Form 230. And then even in the USDL requirements, they have 45 days you're supposed to notify that in Rapids and through the Cynthia. So that is actually under CFR 2953. So those requirements are looked at to make sure. Again, a lot of times I find that people dropped. We weren't being notified, and I think even now, the other day, I think Derrick and I were talking about some of the programs we had several people we had to put in for the, when we were doing the class semester reports, and adding people to the programs because we never were notified. And so, yeah, those are things that we just make sure we all are trying to do. Number 8. Sure that all of us are duly registered with the Federal Department of Labor and, this is the Arkansas Department, I'm sorry. We also want to make sure that you guys have all your apprentices registered with DOL, with the funding department, with the health department. And that's a requirement that you have to do with both electrical and funding program. Now, your miscellaneous programs, there's no requirements. So, unless you know anything, I don't know if there's requirements for miscellaneous. Number 11. Oh, sorry, number 10. 11.
You're
Ah.
on.
All right, we're gonna highlight that. Okay, secure competent instructors, and that's just one of the things, want to make sure your instructors are competent. It's not a big deal, but it is required. Number 10, establish a set of local standards. Submit those standards to the state elected apprenticeship committee and OA for approval. And basically, our standards, most of them have been submitted to DOL. And some of them have been submitted to our office, but not all of them. So at least we'll make sure that we have standards in place. 11, examine the progress of apprenticeship not less than 4 times a year. Again, just making sure you're monitoring them, keeping up with their RTI, their progress, whether they're passing out, and also kind of examining the OJT part too. Number 12 is keep complete, accurate records of each apprentice. Again, the record should be maintained for at least 5 years. Which is interesting because I've actually been to a few programs with new programs where they didn't realize they were supposed to keep those records for 5 years. So, well, that person quit and left. Well, where are the records? Well, they're not here anymore, so I just got rid of it. And unfortunately, when I run into those situations, I have to tell them, you're not in compliance. You got to keep those records. And it's a requirement. So again, that typically tends to be some of our new programs and not so much our established programs. And 13, verify that each participating employer is in agreement with the terms of their standards, including any trust fund establishment. I'm not so sure why I put that. I may have to take that one out. I apologize. Number 13A. Okay, so make sure that the training strategy to pay wages. So I want to make sure that y'all are watching the wage progression. That's one of the things that under state law too, that you're supposed to monitor the wage progression, just making sure that they are progressing. I have been to a couple programs where the beginning salary under the wage scale was below minimum wage. Obviously, you can't go below minimum wage, so that's just somebody that hadn't updated their wage scale. They were, I think, about 2 years behind, so I think they had like 775 on the wage scale, and obviously that needs to be updated correctly. But I just want to know how you're monitoring. That's one of the things I'll ask is tell me how you're monitoring that process. There's no right or wrong answer other than you say I don't monitor it or I've never monitored it. That might be a no answer. But other than that, as long as you have some way of monitoring it, I think a lot of times many of the programs that I found is they'll ask their apprentice at the beginning of the year what their wages are, make sure it's in alignment with what it needs to be. But again, it depends on how you guys do that. It varies. And so I know that a lot of people don't want to share those wages with too many people, and I understand the employers have some concerns with that. But again, we just need to make sure that each sponsor is actually monitoring the process. And 14, okay. The apprenticeship program sponsor shall provide the names of employers. This is something I'm going to do this year. This is a requirement under 652-208. You are required to give us a list of employers. And is that, did you even send that out?
No, I didn't.
Okay. That's something we'll send out. It's a requirement by September 1st that you submit those to our office of all the employers that you have. So basically, that's that part of the process. So, question is, what happens when we get done with the program review? Well, I'm going to actually create a draft report, submit it back to you guys to look at. And then, after we do the benefit graph report, if there's any clarification we need to make, I make those adjustments. And then I'll issue the final report. One thing I wanted to note here is that if there's any sort of fraudulent activity involved, I am required to notify the legislative body. I had that happen one time since I've been here. In that program, I had to notify them and they actually went to legislative audit. I believe basically legislative audit addressed it, looked at it. As far as I know, there was no criminal charges levied against the person, but that person had falsified invoices. They had misstated what they got reimbursed as far as what was actually reimbursed to them. So that had to be written up, and that person had to pay back funds for 3 years. That's it. So just to let you know, that's a requirement that I have to do as an auditor. And so if that ever happens, just be aware that that could happen. We have this sort of part of activity. What you'll do, what you'll receive from me is I usually send an email out, letting you know that I'm going to come do a program review. After you respond back to me, we kind of set a date, and then I'll send out an official notification. In that official notification, I'll tell you what I'm going to be looking at. And if you have questions on anything I'm looking at, please contact me. I'll be glad to walk forward with you guys. A lot of you guys have been to the business before in the past. I'm not a bad person, I'm a mean person. I'm not going to try to get everybody. My job is really to look, evaluate the program, see what we can do better for you guys, how you guys are reporting your information, if it's done accurately or not, and if it meets within the standards of state law and our rules and regulations. So, if you don't have any questions, and I'm going to stay up there a little bit afterwards in case you have a question when I come talk to you personally. I don't have any problem meeting with you afterwards. Derrick, do you have anything else? Cody?
Thank you, Don.
Hey, Cody, before you start, I would like to let everybody know right now, we actually have one program that is suspended by U.S. Department of Labor because of their failure to do what they're supposed to do. You know, I know some of y'all already have been dealing with this program. We're trying to hopefully working with that, and we can try to get this ironed out. But you know, because of, you know, as he's saying, we're keeping these rules, keeping these records. We have a lot of problems over there at this place, and we can't. Half these people are calling me wanting to know how many their hours they got, and then I go and start looking back, and I don't even got all their semester reports submitted. You know, that's one reason why we need to make sure we're having this stuff turned in. So when we run into issues like this, we don't end up screwing the apprentice over in the end of it because of the failure of the program. So, you know, making sure we get those semester reports and stuff turned in. That's why I hadn't started it yet, because I just been getting y'all's in and just been working them as they've been coming in here lately. But here in the next month, I'll get to my checklist and start checking everybody off that's turned it off. And then if you hadn't turned it in, I'm going to be getting with you. And when I get with you on your semester reports, I need to have them complete, guys. I need to have socials. I need to have rapids. I need to have all this information put on there. I don't like seeing reports that are halfway put together. When I see a report that doesn't have a rapids number on there, that makes me think you don't have them registered with our U.S. Department of Labor. Therefore, technically, they're not actually an apprentice. So when I see that stuff, it really starts making me wonder, especially when I'm not seeing some of the other information on those forms. It makes me wonder what you're doing as a program, because you are supposed to keep these records for up to 5 years after they leave. So you should have all this stuff. You should have them registered with U.S. Department of Labor. They should be in our system. So when I'm seeing stuff like that come in and it's bad, and this one I'm telling y'all, just told y'all about, those semester reports aren't pretty that I got. A lot of stuff that I have one line of a name, and I don't have anything. I don't have no social. I don't have no rapids. I don't have nothing. Okay, so you know that right there just tells me obviously this program is not keeping up with their information like they are supposed to, which in the end hurts the apprentice more than anything. So just be mindful of that, guys. You know, my understanding there is that I pretty much hearing that program's not gonna be coming back. At this time, I did get one email last week, Ronnie Abel's Plumbing, they are shutting their doors. So they will no longer be being an apprenticeship program here in the state of Arkansas. Now, they're basically an employer-based program. So never really took in any other apprentices besides the ones that they employed. So not really gonna affect too much on the big scale here. But you know, so that as of right now, I know that. So just kind of keeping y'all informed here as a group of, you know, kind of what's going on there with those type of situations as we come up. So that's all I got.
Yeah, appreciate it. So, we made it to the end. Looks like we're gonna be able to give everybody maybe a little bit about 20 back before you head home. Listen, while all this is important, we have to make sure that we're filling out our forms and everything correctly. Like, if we find issues, we're gonna work with you. We're, you know, that's the whole goal of this. It's not to try to get money back. It's not to try to do any of that. It's truly to make sure that things are being reported properly, apprentices are being served, employers' needs are being met. And that's what you all are out here trying to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis anyway. So while all these things are important and we want to make sure that things are done appropriately, we're always going to attempt to work with you to make sure these things are resolved. As we mentioned, one in the last 8 years has risen to the level of that type of issue. Don't expect that to happen anytime in the near future or moving forward. So, you know, again, appreciate everyone taking the time to come up here. There's a lot of positive conversations that have happened, a lot of solutions that have already been given, just from conversations that have happened. And we look forward to moving into fiscal year 24 with you all. And if you have questions, comments, concerns, observations, things that could be improved, please don't hesitate to reach out to Don, Derrick, myself. Mike's always available as well. And really appreciate it. So thank you all very much for being here. And there's some food in the bag.